Be cool, be kind, be classy. The cupcakes are sweet and sexy. Have fun and enjoy the journey. Or just have a good attorney. No big whoop, no biggie. She lives near New York City. And not just a YouTube show. When you know, you better grab a straw. Learn about the law. It's cool here in the shade. Sipping motions of lemonade. Cool heads will prevail. Kindness will never fail. Be classy and vastly wise. Oh, Melanie Little is going live. Oh no, where is Melanie? Follow the island's melody. There's a concert within reach. No surprise, she's at Jones Beach. She heard some music far away. Captain Jack's at Harbor Bay. He sings and his piano plays. Not all sounds are waterways. Speaking Yiddish and Latin, it's not just for Manhattan. It's for Goethe and the Shakeouts. Ridiculous that insanus. Oy vey, Marcus. Pro said, that's for schmucks. Be cool, be kind, be classy. My cupcakes sweet and sassy. And not just a YouTube show. When you know. Cool heads will prevail. Kindness will never fail. Be classy and vastly wise. Melanie Little is going live.
Happy May Day. Is May 1st May Day? I don't know. Happy May Day, folks. How are you? Today is Friday, May 1st, 2026. It is a full moon. And it is game 6. Game 6 of the first round of the Stanley Cup hockey playoffs, for those of you who don't know, because the other day when I was talking about it, somebody said from the UK, they said, is this ice hockey? It's ice hockey. And if you don't know a lot about ice hockey, one thing that I will fill you in on, here's the tea. Ice hockey fans are superstitious. We are superstitious. Tell me if you're a hockey fan and you're superstitious. So I have to wear the cap. I have to wear the cap again today because it is game 6 tonight. Buffalo Sabres against the Bruins, the Boston Bruins. And the Bruins pulled it off the other night, and they're going to pull it off again tonight. And then they're going to go into game 7. Tied at 3, and what do you think's going to happen? I don't know. I told you I'd root for the Bruins once the Rangers suck, and it is confirmed that the Rangers suck this year. It is. Just is. It's confirmed. Yes. Oh, hello. What just happened here? Go Ducks. I'm going to root for the Ducks in that bracket. I am. Much of my heart is in California. However, it is also in Colorado, and so go Avs. The Avs swept. And now the Avs are going to play the Minnesota Wild. So I'm sorry, but I'm still rooting for the Avs. I got that cap too. They're in the show notes below in my Amazon list. If you too need this really awesome Bruins cap, which by the way, for $32, one of the best purchases I ever made on Amazon, and it's a great yellow. I love it. I love it all the way. I love it. I got that, Scott McGinnis. I'm going to pull that up first. That is going to be the first order of business today. And in the Eastern Conference, I think, sorry, Tampa Bay fans, but I'm going with the Canadians on that one. But then, of course, we're going to root for the Bruins the whole way through. We're going to see what happens with Buffalo. I know I'm a New Yorker, but I just can't root for a Buffalo team. Sorry, not sorry. I absolutely hate the Canes and the Flyers, so I hope I'm not going to watch any of those games. Not. I was rooting for the Pens, even though, yes, we Ranger fans hate Sid Crosby. We hate him. Somebody the other day was so mad when I said I hate Sid Crosby. We hate him because he's good. That's why we hate him. It's no shade to your team. Although they didn't pull it off. And then over here in the Western Conference, I'm going with the Golden Knights. I have to, because John Tortorella is the coach. He used to coach the Islanders. And so we're going to root for Torts. And then if the Golden Knights beat Utah, they got to win. If Golden Knights win tonight, then they're in. They're going against the Ducks. And then I don't know what I'm going to do. But congratulations to your Minnesota team, I see. Minnesota, and like I said, I'm going with Colorado. So that is what it is. How's everybody doing? Due to popular request and demand, and the fact that I've been kind of slacking on this, the Michael Easter report is what we are going to talk about today. But first, did you see this? This is breaking as of this morning. This is a surprising move. A surprising move, in my opinion. The Office of the Chief Medical Examiner in Massachusetts has changed Sandra Birchmore's cause of death from suicide to undetermined. What? What? Interesting timing, isn't it? What do you say about that? All of a sudden, the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner, this broke this morning. The Massachusetts Office of the Chief Medical Examiner has amended 23-year-old Sandra Birchmore's death certificate. Boston 25 News has learned. A spokesperson for the OCME confirmed Friday morning, that was this morning, that Birchmore's death certificate now lists her cause of death as asphyxia and her manner of death as undetermined. So it's the manner of death that has been changed. Remember how Proctor and Buchanan tried to get Dr. Irene Scorti-Bello, who Michael Proctor says he didn't call a whack job, to change her manner of death from undetermined to homicide, and she would never do it? This is a different medical examiner. I'm not sure who signed off on it. Let's see if we read any further if we'll find out. Birchmore's original death certificate listed her cause of death as asphyxia by hanging and the manner of death as suicide. A forensic pathologist later alleged she died by homicidal strangulation. So they have taken off the little clause by hanging, and now it just says asphyxia as the cause of death, and the manner of death is undetermined. Yes, the independent forensic pathologist is Michael Bodden, who is married to Linda Kenny Bodden. He's a very famous forensic pathologist. He's been in it since at least OJ. I mean, he's been in it for a long time, well respected. Quote, as previously stated, OCME findings are based on the information available at the time of determination and may be updated if new information becomes available, the spokesperson said in a statement. This case remains an active investigation by the U.S. Attorney's Office, and the OCME cannot comment further on investigative matters at this time. Oh, did you think that the U.S. Attorney's Office leaned on the medical examiner? Because remember, in the Farwell papers that we read, Farwell, who is sitting in a Rhode Island federal lockup somewhere, is awaiting trial for the murder of Sandra Birchmore and her unborn child, because Massachusetts, the state, county in Norfolk, never brought charges against anyone. In fact, the town of Canton PD, and the MSP troopers assigned to the investigation quickly ruled it a taking of one's own life of pregnant 23-year-old Sandra Birchmore, even though they had all the evidence, in my opinion, that pointed directly to Farwell, including video surveillance, text messages, lots of other things. We learned in the papers, because Farwell decided that it would be a great idea for him to make an application to the federal judge to let him out on bail pending his trial. We learned so much stuff that was kept from the medical examiner, and that may be why the medical examiner reached the conclusion initially that she did. I think it was a she. We're not going to speculate about the father of the child. We don't do that here. Who's worried now? Greg Conner is also running for district attorney to replace Michael Marcy. He's running against Adam Deitch and two other contenders. And Greg Conner is going to have to answer questions about why Matthew Farwell was so quickly cleared in the parking lot of an elementary school by John Fanning, who also was a Stoughton police officer at one time. And maybe Greg Conner is now going to be able to say, oh, well, you know, We're looking into it. Former Stoughton police, I'm back to the article. It says the OCME cannot comment further on the investigation at this time. Former Stoughton Police Department Detective Matthew Farwell is accused of killing Birchmore by strangling her on February 1st of 2021 and then staging her Canton apartment to make it look like a suicide after she informed him that he was the father of the child. Prosecutors allege the killing was carried out to conceal the grooming and sexual essay of Birchmore, which they say began when she was 15 years old and continued until her death. In a court filing in March, attorneys for Farwell stated that an unidentified person is the biological father of Birchmore's unborn child. Not Farwell or his brother, who is a named defendant in a civil lawsuit. He's got a twin brother. They're fraternal. Not identical. Authorities have said that Farwell's DNA was found on a strap that prosecutors allege was used to kill her, so the murder weapon. Farwell recently asked to be released on $50,000 bail, while Birchmore's family is asking a court to issue a no-contact order against his defense team. He has also asked the judge presiding over the case to throw out some evidence. That motion was sealed. We couldn't look at that motion. Last week, prosecutors asked the judge to keep Farwell detained while awaiting trial, citing newly reviewed cell phone evidence that they say shows he poses a danger to the community and a risk of obstruction and flight. Yes, they did find some corn searches, as we have to say on YouTube, on his phone that indicates that he may still be attracted to young women, underage women. He met Sandra Birchmore, remember, when she was 12, and he was part of the Police Explorers program as an instructor. As was Robert Devine, who's also been through some things and decertified. He was decertified, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. Happy Kentucky. Tomorrow's the Kentucky Derby. Glamis Susie, excited? Are you going to wear a nice hat? I can't wait. Farwell's defense team has argued that Birchmore had a history of mental health struggles. They say his ties to the community support releasing him before trial. Yeah, here's the thing. Matthew Farwell got away scot-free for 3 years, over 3 years. He thought he got away with it until the feds had to step in when they were investigating the investigation into the murder of John O'Keefe. The feds stepped in and arrested Farwell because they probably took one look at the case file of the Sandra Birchmore death, and they're like, us, when we reviewed every single record that we could find in her case. Wild. Garino was involved in extracting the cell phone and the forensic analysis. Fanning, Tully, all roads lead back to Tully, don't they? Interesting how he put in his retirement papers right about now, isn't it? At least they're not blaming it on Sandra, saying that it was a consensual relationship, as they are doing in the Arkansas case of Aaron Spencer. Aaron Spencer killed Michael Fossler, who was a 67-year-old man who groomed, essayed, and raped his 14-year-old daughter for a long period of time. And after Michael Fossler got out on $5,000 bail, he was 67. She was 13 or 14. He was in the process of kidnapping Aaron Spencer's daughter in Arkansas, and Aaron Spencer came upon them. And all of a sudden, the dash cam footage and SD card from Michael Fossler's truck where he was kidnapping Aaron Spencer's daughter, it just went missing. It's gone. Those shenanigans are going to come to light soon. But in that case, Aaron Spencer, the father, killed Michael Fossler, the one who was graping his daughter, and in fact actually did again that night in the process of the commission of his kidnapping, because they had a restraining order against him, but just a piece of paper. The state of Arkansas is actually arguing that they were in a consensual relationship. Aaron Spencer's 14-year-old daughter and 67-year-old pedo Michael Fossler. So at least they're not trying to do that here in Massachusetts. You do have one thing to be thankful for, at least in Massachusetts. They're just going to blame her mental health struggles, just like they did with Kelsey. Funny the way it is when you think about it, huh? Farwell has been in prison since August of 2024, and he's charged with her murder and causing the death of Birchmore's unborn child. He has pleaded not guilty to the charges against him. A judge will now review the arguments. His trial is scheduled for October. What they did not say in this Boston 25 article that dropped this morning was not only was Farwell's DNA found on the murder weapon, you know, the strap used to strangle and hang her. But his seminal DNA was also found in her underwear. So did he go over for one last fling before, you know, he decided to end her? It's foul. And then we found out yesterday, I think it was yesterday, I don't know, the days are all blending together, that there were a couple other male contributors found in her underwear as well, which is horrific. Let's take a look at the actual video from Boston 25. And happy birthday. I just saw somebody's birthday fly by. And when I find it, I will say happy birthday to you. I don't know where it went. I'll find it while we listen to this. Here we go.
9:04 this morning, and the chief medical examiner has officially changed the manner of death in the case of a woman who prosecutors say was killed by a Stoughton police officer. The death certificate now lists the manner of death for Sandra Birchmore's undetermined. It previously stated that Birchmore killed herself. Cause was also changed from asphyxia by hanging to just asphyxia.
There she is in the
Former
lobby.
Stoughton police officer Matthew Farwell is accused of killing Birchmore in 2021 and staging it to make it look like a suicide. Prosecutors say he killed her to cover up their sexual relationship, which began before Birchmore turned 18. She was pregnant, but DNA testing shows it was not Farwell's baby. His trial is set to start in October.
Yeah, I thought I said he was from Arkansas. What did I say? Did I misstate something? It happens. I got a lot of things going on in my brain, so sometimes it's Linda Lane's 69th birthday. Happy birthday! Happy birthday, Linda. You know I know the facts, so if I didn't say Arkansas, I thought I said Arkansas, but what else? Okay, let's not get nitpicky. People love to correct me, but I like when you correct me too. Skybell gifted a membership. Thank you so much. And Manj says, I still got low funds the past few months. My business was slow for a bit, but we're gradually getting back to a great place. Saying all that, I'll be contributing the whole time. Give me a shout. You want a shout out? There you go. There's your shout out, Michelle. Thanks for coming in. Appreciate you so much. Skybell, thanks for gifting a membership. Massive Shenanigans says, go Bruins. The Bees have it, you think? I hope so. That'd be really exciting to move on, right? Thanks for being here for 18 months. Linda Lane became a new member, but I know you've been here for a long time. Laura says, come on, Emmy, just say it. Homicide, you can do it. I mean, listen, Adam Deitch has said, and we watched the clip again the other day, that if he wins, if he becomes the next DA of Norfolk County, he's going to reopen the investigation into John O'Keefe. He said that, right? I didn't just imagine that or dream it, did I? Thanks, Laura. Steph became a member. Welcome. Welcome, Steph. I think you're going to like it here. Okay. So talked about the Stanley Cup playoffs. We talked about Sandra Birchmore and the manner of death being changed to undetermined. I mean, come on, man. It is a beautiful day here today. It is a beautiful day. I had to drag myself in here with my raggedy hair, throw a hat on, and come to you because it was so beautiful. I was gardening today. It's time to get the plants out. Finally, sun all day, not a cloud in the sky. It is gorgeous. You made alive, Odd Ollie. You made alive. Whoop, whoop. Congratulations. My Gemini says, I still wonder what exactly led the feds to the Sandra Birchmore case while investigating the investigation into John O'Keefe. I doubt feds investigated all MSP cases, so what specifically led them there? We don't know what the target of their investigation was. It could be the Norfolk DA's office as a whole. It could be the Massachusetts State Police as a whole. But that was one case that a lot of people have been talking about for a long time. Justice for Sandra Birchmore. We've just found out yesterday that this new police officer, I mean, not new, but he's been in the MSP for a long, Scott Quigley, who I'm not sure exactly what the situation was. He was in a car accident. He killed somebody named Scatino is the last name. The person died, I think, after some time, and they're alleging that he was well over the legal limit during that car accident, but 142 cases are affected by his investigations. And so I can't remember how many were affected in Proctor's. I want to say it was like 15 cases. I don't know why that sounds. You can let me know, Scott McGinnis. I see you here. How many cases were Proctor affected that they had to start digging into his discovery. But this Scott Quigley, 142 cases. We read up on that yesterday. Well, there's that. So there's that. You remember, come with me. Come with me, if you will, all the way back to March of 2025. March of 2025. And by the way, you know who represents Scott Quigley? Wait. David Yannetti's office, right? But there's another case coming up. Hold on. Let me just divert for 1 second, okay? Because I, as you know, call me Alice, fall into rabbit holes all the time. There's a case that is coming up beginning of June. David Yannetti is representing this police officer who allegedly pulled over a guy. No, he blocked in a guy. It's called like the salt shed case. And I'm trying to remember who the defendant is. Tell me. He's representing a Massachusetts state trooper who blocks in a guy in his car. And he said, yeah, I gotta let you. And the guy's like, oh, come on, let me go. And he's like, no, I can't let you go. Nope, not O'Malley. Nope. No, not O'Malley. Different guy. No, it's not O'Malley. Kent, Terence Kent. Thank you. You know what I'm talking about, right? Okay. Terence Kent. This is coming up beginning of June. And he's represented by Yannetti. And Yannetti said, like, wait for all the evidence to come out. So here's what had happened was Terence Kent was indicted in March of 2025 on charges of indecent assault and battery on a person over 14 and accepting or soliciting a bribe as a public employee. He's pleaded not guilty, right? So he pulls over this guy who has been as yet unnamed because allegedly he's a victim of a sex crime. He boxes in this man, like pulls right in front of him so he can't leave. And he's like, the guy's like, oh, come on, can't you just let me go? And he's like, yeah, no, I can't. It says here that you have no insurance and like your license or something is suspended. And so, no, I can't. But why don't you meet me over in the parking lot of where this salt shed is, and we'll see if we could work something out. He pulled up. This was in August of 2024, August 24th of 2024. This is right after Karen Reed hung jury mistrial. This guy, Terence Kent, drove his state police cruiser up to a man's parked car in Brighton, blocking the man from leaving. And then when the guy went to move his car, Kent told him his car registration and insurance had expired. Kent then tells him, oh, I got to tow your car. And when the man expressed concerns over the situation, prosecutors say that Terence Kent asked the man that he was going to give a ticket to meet him at a DOT location in Lexington, which is about 25 minutes away from Brighton. But I think he first brought him over to another parking lot. That's what I remember the original story saying. And then while the guy that he was going to give the ticket to was in the car, he quickly tried to get new insurance and he applied for new insurance. And then he got himself some new insurance. But then he went over to the other parking lot that was close by to meet the trooper, Kent. It didn't show up in the system. And so Kent says, all right, well, why don't you meet me at the DOT parking lot? And we're going to see if we can come to, like, you know, some sort of a compromise or whatever. So what had happened was the guy follows him or meets him there at this DOT parking lot. Somebody said it's off Route 2. It's in Lexington. And according to the complaint, the trooper, Terence Kent, led the man into a salt shed where both began touching themselves, according to prosecutors. I'm reading directly from an article. Kent then asked the man for oral. The man refused, the statement reads. Prosecutors say he followed up, telling the man, I'm taking care of you. You're going to take care of me. innocent until proven guilty and all. Last December, Kent filed a motion to dismiss the case, arguing that the grand jury heard insufficient evidence to support the charges and that the bribery charge was brought in the wrong county. Judge Karen E. Goldenberg denied the motion in February. They're trying to keep this quiet. I think. I don't know why you haven't heard of it. In a ruling, Judge Goldenberg determined that Kent's evidentiary arguments were questions of fact that must be determined at trial. She noted that a grand jury's role is not to find guilt or innocence, or even to test whether the evidence in a case could lead to a guilty verdict. Kent claimed that the bribery charge should have been brought in Suffolk County because that's where the initial encounter between him and the man took place. But the judge found that Kent was close enough to the county line for the charges to be correctly brought in Middlesex County. No court hearings are scheduled until the June 2nd trial date, but a judge indicated Friday morning that a final pretrial conference date will be scheduled once the case is assigned to a specific judge and courtroom. Thank you, Mass Live, for bringing this to me today. And here he is. His name is Terence Kent. And David Yannetti is representing him. This article is from today on Mass Live. He's a nice looking man. What the duck have I just listened to? Here he is. It's called Shed Pro Quo. Well done. Shed Pro Quo. Thank you, Courtney. 6'2", 26 trial. I mean, it's David Yannetti. Do we have to watch it? Of course we have to watch it. Of course we're going to have to watch it. Are you kidding me? We're not missing this. We ain't got no quit. What is he going to say? Is he going to say that the man that I pulled over is the one who offered because he didn't want a ticket? Maybe. This is how I. So, here we're going to go back to, this was, boy, David Yannetti was busy. This was March 13th of 2025. This is right before the Karen Reed trial number 2 was supposed to start. And I guess we were so involved in that somehow this just slipped our radar. Here you go. Enjoy.
Carmel versus Terence Kent.
Trooper Terence Kent stood with his lawyer in court to face charges of bribery and indecent sexual assault.
We are, however, asking for a
There's King David. He's right there in front of our eyes. I don't know how we missed this.
stay away, no contact from the alleged victim, whose identity is currently being withheld as the victim of a sexual assault.
Prosecutors say the bribery and sexual assault case started in Brighton last August on Soldiers Field Road, when Kent allegedly used his cruiser to block the male victim's car. When the victim asked Kent to move, the trooper informed him that his registration and insurance expired and the vehicle needed to be towed. That's when prosecutors say Kent requested the victim to meet him at this mass deal.
Wait, is that the salt shed? I don't know. Oh, salt shed is like where they keep the salt for when it snows and there's a nor'easter and they have to salt the roads. Karen could really use some love today. First day as an empty nester, no kids, no husband. I feel lost. We're here for you. We're here for you. Sending you all the love. It's a full moon too, so you might be getting some full moon weird feelings. Don't worry. Every little thing is going to be all right. Here we go. I'm going to take this back just a smidge. There's King David with his Trooper Kent.
That his registration and insurance expired and the vehicle needed to be towed. That's when prosecutors say Kent requested the victim to meet him at this mass DOT yard in Arlington, where they could talk and work something out. Prosecutors allege if the victim performed a sexual act on the trooper, the car would not be towed. Today, District Attorney Marion Ryan said in a statement, quote, "The defendant in this case allegedly used his position of power as a sworn police officer to commit a sexual assault. These allegations, if true, are a blatant violation of public trust."
What is your plea? These indictments guilty or not?
So this is Middlesex County.
guilty.
Not guilty.
Trooper Kent pled not guilty to the charges, and his attorney met with reporters outside court.
We haven't seen grand jury transcripts. We haven't seen any, lab results or testing. There's a lot more to be seen here that we need to evaluate.
But there's a lot more to be seen here. That's what he said. This was, again, a long time ago. We just read an article that said that they did make a motion to dismiss, and the judge is like, yeah, no. I wonder if any other alleged victims of Terence Kent, Massachusetts State Trooper, have come forward. Like, did he ever try this before? Because there was a guy on Long Island, I think, Scott, if you're here, Suffolk County PD, who would pull women over and then make them perform acts and then make them walk home topless. Do you remember that guy? I mean, it happens, but I would think that if it happened with this guy, it wasn't the first time, right? I mean, and how would he even know that the guy would be into it? This reminds me of like Meet the Millers. Did you guys ever watch Meet the Millers? One of my favorite movies of all time. I think it's We're the Millers. We're the Millers. We're the Millers. Jennifer Aniston, Jason Sudeikis, help me. All right, here we go.
That court documents do reveal during the time in question, there were phone calls between the male victim and the trooper. But it's unclear if the trooper's body cam video was working at the time in question. As for that trooper, he remains on administrative leave. Live in Arlington, I'm Ted Wayman, WCVB News Center.
You think he would have kept his body cam on for that? No regrets. Not even one letter? No regrets. Oh, look, I love how my video pops up after this one. You think he would have kept his body cam on for that? Let me know if you're interested in following the case of State Trooper Terence Kent. I have no idea what the defense is going to be, but I can't wait to see it. It's wild. Wild. So I don't know. It'll remain to be seen. Maybe this guy really didn't want a ticket. Of course we have to follow it, right? How can we not? All right, let's do Michael Easter, because that's what we're here for. And then we're going to have to follow up with Terence Kent and find out if that's going to be on TV. Oh, Turtle Boy has an article about it? Of course he does, because he doesn't miss a thing. He doesn't miss a thing. Yannetti is defending the police officer this time. All right. But the thing that we're here for today is Michael Easter. And so if you would come back with me, if you will, all the way back to March of 2025, when we were covering the pretrial hearings for Karen retrial number 2. Motions in lemonade, we call them, because that is what the captions call them. But before I go, and before I do that, I'm so easily sidetracked due to my self-diagnosed adult ADHD. I forgot to tell you the motivational quote of the day. Well, this one was from Wednesday. We didn't do a show Wednesday, so I want to read this one to you because I thought this one was very apropos for today. Leo Tolstoy said, "The two most powerful warriors are patience and time." Mic drop. The two most powerful warriors are patience and time. There's no statute of limitations on murder. So, well, Nancy, I don't know about Terence Kent, but you may be thinking of the case that we covered the other day, the Quigley case. Nancy says you are going to be disappointed if you're turning in to see Yannetti. He's not Kent's attorney, his new partner is. Can you confirm that for me, or are you thinking of the case we covered the other day? Because we covered a different case. That was Quigley. That was the one that his female associate is handling. But as far as I know, he still may be on the Kent one. And so we'll see. There's not going to be any body cam. There's not going to be. You needed that today? Thank you, True Crime Justice. Today's quote for Friday, May 1st. Tom Landry said, "Leadership is the matter of having people look at your..." Back to one. Leadership is the matter of having people look at you and gain confidence, seeing how you react. If you're in control, they're in control. Leadership is the matter of having people look at you and gain confidence, seeing how you react. If you're in control, they're in control. Thank you to Tom Landry. Not sure who he is, but that's what he said. All right, let's look at our empowerment card of the day. We got to shuffle the deck. The Mass Live article said that it was Christina at the bottom of his as his attorney. I still want to read it. I still want to watch it. Hold on. The Mass Live article. I read the entire thing to you and I didn't see anything about a different attorney. I've got it right in front of me. We'll see. We'll see. Okay, here we go. No one can make you feel inferior without your consent. No one can make you feel inferior without your consent. Remember that. Here you go. It's your empowerment card of the day. Ding, ding, ding. All right. Back to Michael Easter. Oh, Shannon said she'd watch paint dry with me. I love that for us. Thank you, Shenanigans. Shenanigans. It's in the third paragraph of the article. You never know what could happen, though, when it comes to trial. He could take it over for trial. 1, 2. During a brief hearing in Middlesex Superior Court Friday morning, both prosecutors and Kent's defense lawyer, Christina Pujals-Ronan, indicated they'd be ready to try the case in June. So maybe she'll try it. Maybe he'll try it. I'm still interested in it either way, although I really would like to see King David. So thank you for that. All right. If they're gonna televise it, maybe if we popularize it, they'll televise it because I really can't wait to hear what this guy's defense is. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. I asked him to come to the salt shed because I was going to make him shovel some salt. That quote is used in Princess Diaries, says someone. And Tom Landry was a longtime coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Thank you. I could have Googled it, but I have you guys. Hockey boy. He wore a funny hat. And Dee Dee. Thank you. The Shaggy defense. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. Okay. Before Karen Reed trial number 2, we learned collectively as a group that the defense had hired a man by the name of Michael Easter, special agent of the FBI, as an expert witness. And we knew that the Commonwealth, via Hank Brennan, was going to do everything that they could do to try and exclude every single one of Karen Reed's witnesses. Because this time, they really, 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 really needed to win. They really needed to win because they had already tried her once and the jury was hung. And now they're going to try her again. They went and hired a special prosecutor, even though they had no conflict in their office. They hired special prosecutor, mob lawyer Hank Brennan, to come in and persecute Karen Reed to the tune of how much money was it? $800K? I don't remember how much exactly, but you guys probably do. And in a recent Freedom of Information Act dump, contained therein, a lot of information in there, was the report of Michael Easter that we never got to see. So we're going to look at it now. I also have the motions pulled up. Why the Commonwealth? Why did the Commonwealth fight to keep him out? What the defense said in response to the Commonwealth's motion in limine to keep Michael Easter out, and the judge's decision on Michael Easter. And why didn't she have a Daubert hearing for Michael Easter when she had something like how many days of Daubert hearings on Marie Russell and on the Crash Daddies number 1 and 2, Dr. Wolf and Dr. Rentschler, and just completely dismissed and excluded Michael Easter's potential testimony without even a hearing. Without even a hearing. But now we have it. Now we have it. We have Michael Easter's report. And after I read the report, now I know. Now I know why they didn't want anybody to hear from Michael Easter. And you may have seen him appear many times on the Justice Served TV channel with Lindy Kenny Bodden and Michael Bryant. I have not had the pleasure of watching any of those shows yet, but he has a great appearance. He would make a great expert He sits a little too far away from the camera. I like a tighter frame, but that's okay. He makes a great witness. And now that I've seen the report, I can see why the Commonwealth did not want this man anywhere near the Norfolk County Courthouse. But I will tell you that they will be able to, in my opinion, we don't know yet because Karen Read has not yet filed her civil suit against the town of Canton and the Massachusetts State Police because they have to wait that time period before they're allowed to do it. But Judge Doolin that we just saw do the hearing in the Miles King case? Karen Read made a motion through Aaron Rosenberg to amend the court order to allow Karen Read to use Michael Proctor's text messages in the forthcoming complaint against the town of Canton and Massachusetts State Police. And Michael Proctor's attorney got up in open court and said, hasn't Michael Proctor been through enough? Yeah, that was Doolin, right? Well, it didn't take him long to reach a decision, which we did go over together. And he said, yes, Karen Read can use Michael Proctor's text messages in her forthcoming complaint against the MSP and the town of Canton police. And so, because I am sure the allegations in that complaint are going to be something like the investigation was done so poorly and against all protocol that there's no way that they should have landed on me as the suspect. They should have landed it on many other people or one particular person because their investigation was so poor. And who better to testify about the poor investigation than a man like Michael Easter? Let's take a look at this newly unsealed report that many of you were able to get through a Freedom of Information Act dump. Here it is. This is his CV, which is just a fancy word for resume, curriculum vitae of Michael Easter. From 2004 to 2025, Federal Bureau of Investigation was his job. Special agent. Now he's retired. But let's take a look at his experience and see if we think that he should be qualified or he should have been qualified as an expert in the Karen Read criminal trial. Because, she was entitled to not only a third-party culprit defense, where she could say it wasn't me, it was them, and a Bowden defense, Bowden defense, which in Massachusetts is pointing to the investigation as being so poor that there's no way that anybody could ever find her guilty. Hold on, please. All right. Formerly assigned to the FBI Headquarters Criminal Investigative Division, Cellular Analysis Survey Team, CAST. As a member of CAST, I provided historical analysis of cell site location information, CSLI, Google location history, GLH, other location-based records for cellular devices, along with technological assistance to local, state, and federal law enforcement. CAST assistance included cell site, Wi-Fi, and GPS mapping, analytical reports, and expert testimony at trials. I successfully used CSLI to apprehend fugitives, recover victims, and provide investigative leads in thousands of cases. Okay, thousands of cases. Just about as many cases as Marie Russell worked. Maybe Marie Russell worked a lot more in the prison and the ER in which she worked. Additionally, I consulted with local, state, and federal law enforcement partners in more than 2,000 cases involving CSLI, GLH, and other location-based records. For over a decade, I was a lead instructor responsible for the creation and development of the CAST certification curriculum used to teach local, state, and federal law enforcement partners the investigative techniques used by the FBI for CSLI, GLH, and other location-based records. I provided training regarding cellular technology, record analysis for law enforcement, and the complete FBI CAST certification process. Prior to joining CAST full-time in November of 2013, I was assigned to the Ventura Resident Agency Violent Crimes Squad, which was responsible for investigating crimes, including, but not limited to, racketeering, narcotics sales and distribution, armed robbery, violent crimes against children, kidnapping, extortion, and fugitive cases. Specifically, I was assigned as the agent coordinator to an FBI-sponsored multi-jurisdictional violent gangs / safe streets task force with the Oxnard Police Department and the Ventura Police Department. This is in California, if you don't know. I also worked a collateral assignment with CAST where I provided historical analysis of cell site location information, Google location history, other location-based records for cellular devices, and technological assistance to locate state and federal law enforcement partners. From 2003 to 2004, he worked as a deputy sheriff with the Ventura Sheriff's Department. He was assigned to the Ventura County Todd Road Jail, where I oversaw the daily activities of hundreds of inmates, ranging from misdemeanor offenses to violent felony offenders. I worked as a courtroom deputy charged with the movement and transport of inmates and the safety and security of the courtroom. So you can see he only worked there for 1 year, and then the FBI picked him up. From 1998 to 2002, he was a captain in the U.S. Marine Corps Semper Fi. Completed the U.S. Marine Corps Officer Candidate School and Infantry Officer course and was assigned to First Radio Battalion, Cannone. Somebody pronounce it for me. I better start learning how to do my Hawaiian pronunciations, by the way. Kaneohe Bay, Hawaii, as a second lieutenant. I received additional training in command and correct warfare, basic radio communications, and signals intelligence. As a second lieutenant, I supervised a unit assigned to collect, translate, and analyze enemy communication systems. As a first lieutenant, I was the operations officer for First Radio Battalion and oversaw the training and overseas deployment of units in the battalion. I supervised the radio battalion contact team, which conducted operations with the 1MEF 23rd Marine Expeditionary Unit. I served as General Conway's intelligence officer during his command of the 1st Marine Division, Camp Pendleton, California. As a U.S. Marine officer, I have deployed to several countries in the Pacific and Eastern Europe. Thank you for your service, sir. He did his he got his associate's degree from Ventura Community College. And then he went on to get his bachelor's from UC Santa Barbara. And he got his bachelor's in 1998. Professional training and instruction. Looks like he did his Ventura County Criminal Justice Training Center basic training in 2003. FBI New Agents Training in Quantico, Virginia in 2004. FBI Project Pinpoint Cellular Survey Analysis and Geolocation Techniques for Investigators. FBI Cellular Analysis Survey Team. FBI Cellular Analysis Survey Team training. So he did a lot of cellular forensic training. And he's got all of his trainings listed every single year that he did them. From 2007 to 2012. FBI Cellular Analysis Survey Team, Qualcomm Technologies, LTE Concepts for Business Professionals. We'll just scroll through this. But he is highly trained, highly skilled. Much of it in cellular analysis, because that is one area of expertise that changes, right? I don't know that crime scene investigation procedures have changed that much in the past 2 decades. Has it? I mean, you can tell me. Almost as much as training as Shannon Burgess. Well done. Shannon with one N. And here you go. He's had lots of training. Some of it's a week long. Some of it is years long. Wi-Fi location based on positioning systems. And it seems to me that he's got some expertise. Well, let's get to the meat of the case. Here's Ed Wallace. Hi, Ed. Ed. And I was watching you guys last night do this, the David case, the Celeste Rivas Hernandez case. That is, oof, it's a brutal one. And I love the things that you had to say. Thanks for tuning in. Some reviver training here in 2024. He's been on all kinds of teams and stuff. Ed Wallace knows a lot more about this stuff than I do. You got to come on, Ed, one time. Oh, please. He's also an instructor. Oh, he's certified in the use of Gladiator Forensics field survey equipment. I don't think he's as experienced as Ed Wallace is, but that's okay. He was hired as an expert. We're going to go. Here, he was an instructor in FBI Criminal Investigative Division. He was a CAST certification instructor. He developed FBI CAST curriculum and training guide used to teach local, state, and federal law enforcement, provided historical cell site analysis training to over 1,500 local, state, and federal law enforcement officers. He doesn't just do, he teaches. He provided training in the area of historical cell site analysis and cellular records to San Diego Inn of Court. He provided historical cell site analysis and investigative training to attendees of the International Communications Data and Digital Forensics held in London, England. He provided historical cell site analysis and investigative training to attendees of the International Congress to fight kidnappings held in Honduras. He has testified over 200 times as an expert witness in historical cell site and location-based record analysis in federal courts and state courts, and he lists them all. Many times in California, also in Nevada, Texas, DC, New Jersey, Washington State, Hawaii, Chicago, Colorado, Arizona, Alaska. He goes everywhere. Here is the report that is specific to the case at hand. Yeah, I didn't see any blue paint experience either, Home Slice, but I mean, not everybody can be as good as Judd the Dud Welcher, right? Here we go. 2, Attorney Alan Jackson from Michael Easter, March 6th of 2025. Introduction. My name is Michael Easter. I am a retired special agent for the Federal Bureau of Investigation. I joined the FBI in 2004 after having served as an officer in the U.S. Marine Corps and as a Ventura County Deputy Sheriff. My career as an FBI special agent has equipped me with exceptional problem-solving abilities, refined through managing complex cases and high-pressure situations. I've consistently delivered results in critical investigations, including homicides, robberies, abductions, and other violent crimes, both domestically and internationally. This experience has cultivated my expertise in critical thinking, meticulous data analysis, and effective collaboration within the law enforcement community. I pioneered the FBI's Critical Incident Response course, equipping investigators with essential skills in real-time crisis management and advanced investigative techniques. As an FBI instructor, I've honed my ability to deliver complex information effectively to diverse audiences, fostering strong rapport and trust even under pressure. I taught this course for approximately 10 years to FBI special agents and local and state investigators throughout the United States. This course significantly enhanced their operational capabilities in critical incident scenarios. I mean, this is exactly what he's been teaching, what he taught for 10 years. Real-time crisis management, advanced investigative techniques. We're talking about Randy now, Melissa. We're talking about Randy now. Right, Rescue Randy was not one of his people for job recommendations either. Oh, that's right. Rescue Randy. In my role as an FBI Cellular Analysis Survey Team National Asset, decision-making is a skill that has been consistently tested and honed through my deployment to numerous critical incidents, both domestically and internationally. I have worked thousands of cases involving the analysis of technical device information to locate victims and subjects of kidnappings, homicides, robberies, other violent crimes, and national security matters. I have provided detailed briefings to the highest levels of federal, state, and local law enforcement to aid in their investigative decisions making process and critical incident management. I'm just going to break for a second to say maybe he could help find Nancy. Still no Nancy. Still no Nancy. Where's Nancy? We're talking about Randy now. Sorry, little cupcake. I'll get back on track. Finally, my expertise extends to legal matters, to legal matters, and the ability to articulate complex investigative information throughout the entire legal process, from incident inception to trial. As an FBI expert witness, I've testified in over 200 criminal cases, specializing in device records, user content, and location data. This extensive experience led to my appointment as the FBI's expert witness training instructor. He's the guy who taught everyone else in the FBI how to testify in court as an expert witness. So take that. And then it says request. On February 27th, 2025, Attorney Alan Jackson requested that I conduct an investigative review of the case material detailing the investigative activity of the Canton Police Department, Massachusetts State Police, and the Norfolk District Attorney's Office. Attorney Jackson coordinated access to an electronic folder containing discovery material provided by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts in the matter for Massachusetts versus Karen Reed. Further, Attorney Jackson requested that I prepare a written report that detailed my observations and conclusions as a result of my investigative review. Oh, don't worry. If you just got here, you didn't miss too much. Adri says 1 month of being a cupcake. Oh, congratulations. Woohoo. Bridget says a cupcake just said that his wife is related to the O'Keefes and thinks Karen is guilty. Kent's wife. Kent's wife is related to the O'Keefes and thinks Karen is guilty. Thank you for your 5. Bridget. Karen says, thoughts on defendant's case being assigned to Gilday. Yeah, can we get back to that? We'll get back to that. I think it makes complete sense. All right, we'll just cover it now. So the case of Jennifer McCabe, Brian Higgins, Brian Albert, and Colin Albert against Karen Reed and Aidan Carney, the defamation case has also been assigned to Judge Gilday. Judge Gilday sits, and this is what I found strange. Judge Gilday sits in Plymouth County. He is the judge who is currently presiding over the O'Keefe versus Karen Reed, Waterfall, and C.F. McCarthy's matter. It makes complete sense because all of these parties are going to be the same in many of these cases. And the Jennifer McCabe, Brian Albert, Colin Albert, Brian Higgins are probably all going to be deposed in the wrongful death case as well. So it makes a lot of sense to have one judge covering both cases. However, it's weird to me because, and if anybody who's local knows the answer to this, Judge Gilday, as my understanding, it's judicial economy. Thank you, Zoe. Sits in Plymouth County, and the Haas defendant's lawsuit was filed in Barnstable County, which is down the Cape. And so, here in New York, where my point of reference is, judges don't sit on cases in multiple counties. If you're in Nassau, you sit in Nassau. If you're in Manhattan, you sit in Manhattan. If you're in Brooklyn, you're in Brooklyn. Like, they don't cross-pollinate counties and judges. And so I don't know. It's odd to me, but that he can sit on a case that's in Barnstable and also in Plymouth. How far away are the counties? Like, is everything going to be on Zoom? I mean, it makes total sense, but for the fact that Judge Gilday sits in Plymouth. So those are my thoughts. Thank you for being here for 8 months, Karen McCourt. Bill Gonzalez says, but can he make a blue paint video? I don't know. Thanks, Bill, for your 10. And Kaylee Bob says, but he can't, but can he tell us where Chloe is? Thanks for being here for 4 months. We don't know where Chloe is. I don't know. Specially assigned. Okay. All right, here we go. Attorney Jackson coordinated access to an electronic folder containing discovery material provided by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Wait, that's where I was, right? Okay. I get sidetracked and then I lose my place. Plymouth to Barnstable is a quick 35 minutes without traffic. You know, why do the judges in Massachusetts who are appointed and not elected, the way we elect our judges here in New York, why are they allowed to sit in separate counties? Like, was it a special assignment? I don't know. Yeah, and it's not like anybody has made a motion to consolidate the cases. So, I mean, I feel like the Haas defendants chose Barnstable for a reason. The only other choice of venue that they had was the county in which Aiden resides, the county in which Karen resides, or Norfolk County. And they did not want to be in Norfolk County because the Norfolk County jury pretty much knows about the shenanigans that went on during the Karen Reed case. And I don't think Norfolk County would be in their favor. So judicial boundaries shapeshift in Massachusetts, says Zoe. So if they picked Barnstable for a reason, was it because they were hoping to get a specific judge in Barnstable? And now it's like, oh, guess what? Guess what? You're going to Judge Gilday. I don't know. I don't know that they've made a motion to change venue. Nothing's happened in that case yet. So, yeah, maybe that's like when you pick a venue for a reason. Okay. You pick a venue for a reason. Juries in New York are much more generous in certain counties than in other counties. Juries in the Bronx are historically very generous. You break a fingernail in the Bronx, you sue somebody, you're going to get $1 million. I'm just using an example. Westchester County juries, on the other hand, are very stingy because Westchester is a very wealthy county. And for some reason, jurors think there's some sort of correlation between them awarding money to a plaintiff and their property taxes. There isn't really, but that's what they think. And so the Westchester juries are stingy. The Bronx juries are generous. And I don't know what Barnstable is like, but you definitely pick a venue for a reason. Hold, please. Those are my initial thoughts. Next section of the report is entitled Best Practices for Critical Incident Investigations. Everyone, please hit the like button. It helps the algorithm and the long form content stay in your algorithm. Every critical incident investigation requires the creation and preservation of a structured case file, either in electronic or hard copy format. Maintaining a comprehensive and structured investigative case file is an established best practice that can ensure an investigation is properly documented and enables proper case management, oversight, and prosecution. The case file should contain all case-related materials, and it is the lead investigator's responsibility to ensure all investigative activity is properly documented and preserved in the case file to meet the need of prosecutors for successful prosecution, comply with discovery obligation, and further support a cold case investigation should the case be reinvestigated. Put a pin in that. Put a pin in that. It's the lead investigator's responsibility. Conversely, an unstructured case file system limits the accessibility of key case investigative documents and compromises the efficiency and effectiveness of the investigation and potential prosecution. It further compromises the ability for a cold case investigation and calls into question the effectiveness of the investigation itself. Calls into question the effectiveness of the investigation itself. In conducting my investigative review of the case material detailing the investigative activity of Canton PD, MSP, and Norfolk DA's office, I reviewed the following. And this is what every expert must do in his or her expert report, is delineate every single thing that they reviewed and coming to their conclusion as an expert, okay? Here's what he reviewed. Law enforcement reports, lab reports, expert reports, video surveillance, testimony transcripts, evidence bags, forensic phone analysis, cell phone records, vehicle reports, investigator notes, and the MSP policy guide. Investigator notes, there were not a lot of. as I recall. The subsequent sections, while not comprehensive, detail key investigative areas where Canton PD, MSP, and Norfolk DA's office failed to adhere to best investigative practices and the MSP policy guide. The MSP policy and procedure combined PDF section INV01 criminal investigations details their department policy on case management is consistent with the best practice I detailed above. Okay. Here's what he's going to do. And this is genius, but he's an expert. So this is what he does. He's going to take Massachusetts State Police own policy and procedures manual, pull out all the sections relevant to what he's talking about, and show us and tell us everything about how the MSP violated its own policies in the way that they investigated the murder of Boston police officer John O'Keefe. Are you ready for it? And that's why, in my opinion, the Commonwealth didn't want the jury to see it. And the judge quickly ruled to exclude it without any kind of hearing. Policy. Here's the policy. Case management is an ongoing process involving all members of the department. Proper case management facilitates the scope and direction of the investigation, in addition to providing documentation for court proceedings. Case management. Case management is an ongoing process involving all members and is used to determine the direction and depth of the investigation or investigative process, the direction of, keep that in mind, the direction of, and the necessary resources allocated to a particular investigation. Number one, arrival at crime scene. Here we go. We've been talking about this since as long as I've been screaming into this microphone. And when we first started covering the Karen Reed case, January 2024, we've looked at every police report. We've looked at all the first responder reports, every bit of information, every court document. We've watched every hearing. We've watched both trials. We've been here for every single bit of it. And we've been screaming it for over 2 years now, 2.5 years, almost. Arrival at crime scene. A, upon arrival at the crime scene, it is the first responding investigator's responsibility to secure the crime scene and surrounding area, preserve all potential physical evidence, separate victims, witnesses, and subjects, and identify and request additional personnel and resources needed at the crime scene. My review of the discovery materials revealed that there was no report by the Canton PD or MSP that properly detailed any responding officer or any other investigator properly secured the crime scene and the surrounding area immediately before or after John O'Keefe was transported from 34 Fairview Road on January 29th of 2022. Further, I did not identify any report by Canton PD or MSP that properly detailed additional resources were requested or provided to secure the crime scene and preserve or recover evidence. We know the crime scene was left unattended all day long. We know. We were there. We watched. The Massachusetts State Police Policy and Procedures Guide, section INV01, Criminal Investigations, details their department policy is consistent with this best practice. Here it is in a nice little box for you with bullet points. Investigations. The first member arriving at a crime scene shall, okay, this is shall. It is not discretionary. Shall is another word for must. It doesn't say should. It doesn't say may. It doesn't say can. It says shall. The first member arriving at a crime scene shall initiate medical services if needed, secure and preserve the integrity of the crime scene, but it was snowing, conduct a preliminary investigation, and underneath that, It says ensuring that evidence is not lost, destroyed, or altered in such a manner as to eliminate its probative value pending the arrival of crime scene or evidence technicians. Do not move or touch physical evidence unless absolutely necessary to assure its preservation. And 3, if physical evidence is moved, a notation shall be made of its exact location and position at the scene. Back to the words of Michael Easter. B, a critical component of any investigation is a detailed crime scene log, which serves to document all personnel who access the restricted crime scene area. This log should contain, at a minimum, the personnel's names, identification numbers, accurate arrival and departure times, and a description of their activities at the scene. It is also essential to identify the officer responsible for the log's maintenance. My review of the discovery material revealed that there was no report by Canton PD or MSP that properly created a crime scene log detailing all responding personnel, duties performed, chain of evidence, or the details of all evidence collected on January 29th of 2022, or any other date that evidence was removed from 34 Fairview Road. The Massachusetts State Police Policy and Procedures, Section INV 10, Evidence Collection and Preservation, details their department policy is consistent with this best practice. Well, we're going to look at the judge's decision and why she decided to exclude Michael Easter. But part of her decision was that, listen, a jury's going to understand that all of this stuff is supposed to be done. They don't need an expert for this. You can just cross-examine the troopers and they'll tell you whether they adhered to their policies and procedures. Remember how that worked out? Yeah. Do you think an average juror knows that they're supposed to keep a crime scene log of everyone who comes on scene? What time they come on, what time they leave? Because I remember testimony from both trials, or maybe just one, that when the CERT team did go there, and remember, it was not crime scene investigation that went there to the evidence collecting people. It was the CERT team who typically searches for missing people, because we've seen them in cases when Anna Walsh was missing and Katie McLean was missing when they found her in the pond. Remember the trial of Ingolf Turk in the same courtroom? There was no log of who came on the scene, and somebody testified, oh yeah, there was a couple other guys, you know, like 4 or 5 unidentified people, not really sure who they were, but I think they were law enforcement. That is exactly what this policy and procedure is designed to prevent. How can you say nobody planted taillight if you can't even tell us who was on scene? That there were 4 or 5 guys, just a couple of guys, I don't know, a couple of guys, I'm not really sure. Got guys everywhere. And here is their own policy in the next box. Crime scene perimeter and control. Members responding to a crime scene shall. Again, this is not optional. It's not if you feel like it. It's not only if it's not snowing. Shall establish a crime scene perimeter, shall establish boundaries beyond the initial scope of the crime scene perimeter with the understanding that boundaries can be reduced but cannot be easily expanded, meaning make it bigger than you need to, and you can always pinpoint it down. Later, control access to the scene to authorized personnel only and document the names of all persons who access the scene. Well, we know because we were there. What did they not do? They didn't establish a crime scene perimeter. I mean, I think somebody testified. Yeah, we tried to, put the crime scene tape up, but it was windy. They did not have a cruiser sitting there all day. They just left it totally unsecured. Nobody watched it. Anybody could have been on that front lawn from, I don't know, the 8 hours that it was left unsecured from the time Canton PD cleared the scene until MSP and the CERT team got there later at night when it was dark. They didn't do any of that. Recovery of evidence. Crime scenes shall be documented prior to processing and searching. Shall be prior to processing and searching. Documentation may include written description, photographs and videos, and sketches and diagrams. Now, one thing that I've always wanted to know that we have no idea about is where the body of John O'Keefe was found. We don't know. We have no idea. A general idea, maybe. Nobody took measurements. Nobody marked where the body was. Nobody did a chalk outline like you see on TV. Nobody did anything. It was just a guessing game about where John O'Keefe's body was. And some really sketch video of Gallagher blowing a leaf blower rather, that he had Sergeant Good shoot home and shoot back with out of his own garage. This video of Gallagher with the leaf blower blowing the snow, but there's no frame or reference. Like, it could be anywhere on that lawn. We have no idea. And exposing some pieces of clear cocktail glass, allegedly. No red taillight pieces were found. You know the story. Members may collect any evidence that does not require assistance from specialized units. Members shall take steps to minimize the handling of evidence. Members shall, again, this is not optional, it says they may collect evidence, but if they're going to, they shall wear gloves during evidence collection. And I don't think that they mean like the snow gloves. They shall understand that when gloved, the handling of evidence may destroy or damage latent fingerprints and DNA evidence. I mean, was that the pieces of that cocktail glass ever even tested for DNA or latent fingerprint evidence? Who can even remember at this point? And they shall package evidence in a manner to preserve and prevent spoliage or contamination. Well, I mean, I don't know. What say you about maybe potentially some used red Solo cups from the what was he? The acting chief of police or the understudy chief of police, Tom Kelleher, from across the street on Fairview? And the leaf blower, the gas leaf blower that was contaminating anything it uncovered with, gas fumes, maybe leaves and other debris that might have been in that leaf blower. And then putting the Solo cups that they used to collect the blood into a Stop and Shop bag and then just putting it to hang out on the truck of, the floor of whoever's truck it was. Do we even remember whose truck that was? I don't know. All evidence shall be uniquely identified. The identifiers shall be recorded on the outside of each packaged item and include the case identifier or number, the seizing member's name and identification number, and the date, location of seizure, and description of the items. When multiple items are recovered from a single location, members shall sequentially number items for identification purposes. When personnel from specialized units collect evidence, they shall adhere to their respective policies and directives. Members shall take appropriate precautions when collecting or storing biological matter or chemical substances that may pose serious health risks if handled improperly or unprotected, like blood. In Solo cups. I don't know. Chain of custody forms. This is the Massachusetts State Police procedure. This is not something Michael Easter is making up out of his head. SP 145 chain of custody contraband evidence property form. Used for all evidence, excluding controlled substances, contraband, found unclaimed or recovered property to show the chain of custody of the item or property. When we covered the Justin Root case, we saw what one of these actual forms looks like. They didn't use it here. Oh, please. C. A fundamental principle of crime scene management is the prompt identification and segregation of all individuals present during the incident. This separation is essential to preserve the integrity of witnesses' accounts by preventing collaborative narratives. Regrettably, the reports from Canton PD and MSP indicate a clear breach of this protocol as witnesses and potential suspects were allowed to congregate and share information, potentially influencing their individual recollections. Oh, Mr. Easter, you didn't even know what happened at the second trial. You didn't even know what happened. We found out that Kerry Roberts lied to the grand jury when she told them that she heard Karen Reed tell Jennifer McCabe to Google hypothermia, how long Googled hypothermia. That perhaps her individual recollection was influenced, potentially. Because then she said, well, I didn't really understand the question, but I knew it happened, from the timeline. Okay. The Massachusetts State Police Policy and Procedures, Section INV 01, Criminal Investigations, details their department policy is consistent with the best practices to separate potential witnesses. Oh, they're supposed to. Here's what it says. Every effort shall be made to locate, identify, and interview reliable witnesses. Witnesses shall be interviewed. Shall. This is, again, not optional. As soon as possible and in a quiet environment and separately to ensure independent statements. It's their own policy. And I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe that Alan Jackson, David Yannetti tried to cross some of the very few state troopers who were called, by the way, at trial number 2 on these procedures. And I don't remember exactly what answers they got. Aren't you supposed to separate the witnesses? I don't know. I don't recall. D, a notable deficiency in the discovery materials is the absence of any report from Canton PD or MSP acknowledging 34 Fairview Road as a potential crime scene. What? This oversight contradicts the available interview evidence, which indicates that John O'Keefe arrived at the location to socialize. Consequently, it is a reasonable inference that O'Keefe could have been inside the residence and or interacted with its occupants prior to his death, making it a relevant location for investigative purposes. Who's been screaming that since the beginning? All of us collectively, except for the hate watchers that are watching. And I know you're that. Just smash the like button if you're hate watching, because, a view is a view. See reports by Sergeant Lank, Sergeant Good, and Lieutenant Gallagher. And then he makes a nice little chart for us. The left side column says author. The second column, interviewees/notes. Document name is the third column. Date of activity, fourth column. Date of report is the fifth column. And the last column is the number of days between the activity and the report. And this will blow your mind if you're not aware of this. So, author, document number 1. Canton PD document. We don't know who the interviewee is. The document name is 5 Canton PD CAD sheet from the call number. Date of activity, September 30th, 2021. The report wasn't drafted until August 17th of 2023. And so 686 days passed between the date of the activity and the date of the report. That's the most egregious. What's a CAD sheet? Hold on. Anybody know? Just tell me real quick. 5 Canton PD CAD sheet. $686 days. The next document, written by Paul Gallagher, were crime scene photos. Canton PD report number 22870F, acquisition of photos and other by Detective Paul Gallagher. It's a 21-page report. The date of activity, 1/29/2022. The date of the report, February 5th, 2023, 392 days before they wrote a report on that. CAD is the police records. Computer aided, oh, okay. Computer aided report. I think you might be right, Kentucky Granny. Next message shenanigans. I don't think it would be 686 days for them to generate a 911 call report, do you? Because isn't that handled by a different entity? I don't really know. I'm going to leave this up to him. Maybe he's going to explain it to us. The next document, Paul Gallagher again, MSP interview. Paul Gallagher. So it's an MSP interview of Paul Gallagher. They interviewed him April 3rd of 2024, which would have been more than 2 years after the murder of John O'Keefe. They wrote the report 6 days later on April 9th of 2024. But they didn't interview Paul Gallagher until 2 years after the murder of John O'Keefe. Okay. Team Brittany says it's a dispatch report. Thank you very much. Why would it take them 686 days to generate a dispatch report? Also, why does it say September 30th of 2021? I have questions. Let's see if he explains it to us. Elsa's Ice Cream says Gallagher gave us the photos that looked like they were taken with a potato. Mm-hmm. Right. The next document is called an incident report, and it is authored by Good, Mullaney, Saraf, and Lank. It is the Canton PD incident report, 12 pages long. It was the activity was January 29th, 2022, and it was dated the next day, January 30th, 2022. One day. Congrats. I think that's the winner. Oh no, the next one's the winner. Sean Good. Grand jury testimony extracted from 2 grand jury minutes, April 14th, 2022. Date of activity, 4/14/2022. He did it on the same day. Michael Lank, crime scene photos. Date of activity, January 29th, 2022. The report was not generated until 392 days later, February 25th of 2023. Crime scene photos. Michael Lank wrote an incident report, 10 pages long, from January 29th, 2022 and February 4th of 2022, but the report is undated. And then Michael Lank wrote he did something with some grand jury minutes on April 14th, 2022, and he wrote his report up the same day. Number 2, documentation and chronological record of investigation. All critical incident investigations should contain a chronological record of events that document developments in the investigation and identify the need for future investigative activity. It should provide a brief description of the investigator's actions, what was investigated, and what may need to be further investigated later. It should reference where in the case file a report or notes that further explain the event or issue can be found. The reader of the chronological record should be able to understand how the investigation progressed and the logical path the investigators took to identify or eliminate suspects. Well, there's nothing logical about what happened here. We all know. Because if there's one thing we have, it's common sense and logic. My review of the discovery material revealed that there was no report by Canton PD, MSP, or NDA that detailed a timeline or chronological record for the investigation. So funny, because you know what's so funny is that Jennifer McCabe had a timeline. Jennifer McCabe wrote a timeline with Carrie Roberts and others. Her sister Denise was the scrivener. And they say they did it because John O'Keefe's mom, Peggy O'Keefe, told them to. So you mean to tell me the witnesses, the alleged witnesses who really didn't witness anything, according to them, had a timeline and the PD didn't even have a timeline? Say it isn't so. Oh, please. The Massachusetts State Police Policy and Procedures Manual, Criminal Investigations, details their department policy is consistent with this best practice. Here's the policy. Case management is an ongoing process involving all members of the department. Proper case management facilitates the scope and direction of the investigation in addition to providing documentation for court proceedings. Case management. Case management is an ongoing process involving all members and is used to determine the direction and depth of the investigative process and the necessary resources allocated to a particular investigation. B, a fundamental standard in critical incident investigations is the maintenance of a comprehensive case file accompanied by a table of contents that provides a summary overview of each section. The following essential sections are crucial for ensuring meticulous documentation and streamlined information access. Number 1, a crime report completed by the lead investigator. Includes victim and witness information, summarized statements, and a detailed synopsis of the crime, including identified persons of interest. 2, property and evidence reports. Contains all documentation related to the recovery, storage, and chain of custody of property and evidence, e.g., recovered property reports, evidence reports, chain of custody logs. 3, crime lab reports. Includes requests for laboratory examinations and all reports detailing scientific analysis of evidence, such as NIBIN, DNA, and latent print analysis. 4, vehicle reports. Contains all reports pertaining to vehicles involved in the investigation, including photographs, telematics data, and vehicle cellular module reports. 5, arrest reports. Includes all arrest reports generated during the investigation, as well as prior arrest records of suspects, witnesses, and other involved individuals. 6, follow-up investigative reports. Documents all investigative steps taken after the initial crime report, used to present a comprehensive case to the prosecutor's office, consolidating witness statements, lab results, and crime scene descriptions into a single document supporting charging decisions. 7, victim information contains all personal identifying information of the victims. 8, suspect information includes all personal identifying information of suspects, including criminal history records, motor vehicle records, photographs, and digitally gathered data, for example, social media. If a person is eliminated as a suspect, their information is to be moved to the appropriate section, such as witness or eliminated suspects. Well, no suspects were ever eliminated because no suspects were ever even considered. Witness information maintains a master witness list with names, addresses, phone numbers, and interview recording numbers. Stores witness statements and interview notes organized by witness number. 10, officer at scene reports and notes. Includes initial patrol officer reports, supplemental reports, and notes detailing actions taken at the scene, including evidence, discovery, and neighborhood canvasses, something else they did not do. Look for, ring camera footage. We covered a case the other day in which a man got onto a school bus, a Canton school bus, and beat the bejesus out of the bus driver, punched him repeatedly because he wouldn't allow his daughter to get on the wrong stop, to get on the bus to go to school. And the man got on the bus and started punching the bus driver. And didn't the police canvass the neighborhood for ring camera footage in that case? Or was it another case that we recently covered in the area? 11. Crime scene documentation contains narrative descriptions and diagrams of the crime scene, including the location of bodies, evidence, vehicles, and other relevant details. Includes diagrams created by officers, detectives, and crime lab personnel. 12. Crime scene photographs. Stores all photographs taken during the crime scene investigation, including images of victims, the scene, evidence, vehicles, and individuals. Maintain proof, sheets, and digital storage media, CDs, thumb drives. This is what a case file is supposed to look like. 13. Victim medical records. Includes paramedic run sheets and hospital reports documenting medical treatment and evidence collection. Identifies medical personnel and treatment locations. 14. Medical examiner reports. Contains all reports from the ME's office, including autopsy reports, diagrams, and photographs. Communications. Maintains records of all communications between investigators, victims, witnesses, and suspects. 16. Search warrants. Contains all search warrants, returns, and related documentation. 17. Video CCTV evidence. Stores all video recordings captured in and around the crime scene. Well, that's so interesting. Nobody ever looked. Unless you're calling the Sallyport the crime scene, in which case, yeah, they hid a lot of the video, the surveillance video from the Canton PD parking lot, hallways, and Sallyport where Karen's vehicle was taken. But there was no video recordings captured in and around the actual crime scene at 34 Fairview, right? 18, eliminated suspect information. Maintains records of individuals initially considered suspects, but later eliminated from the investigation. I don't think there's any of that stuff either. Glamis thank you for your 5. Says, I did research on this. Barnstable is a low win rate for plaintiffs, only 11%. Worcester is a high win rate for plaintiffs, over 25%. Which is interesting then. Why wouldn't they just have filed it? Aiden lives in Worcester County, right? I don't know. Well, thanks, Gigi, for gifting 5 memberships. You're amazing. We all hope you're feeling better. And Gigi says, oh, sorry I'm late. It's pouring rain here. I was listening to you driving home and I had to hurry. When I heard you ask who Tom Landry was, I'm a Dallas fan. Thank you. I probably could have Googled it, but I didn't even know that that was going to come up today. Thanks, Gigi, for your 10. And thanks, James Lynch, for becoming a new member. You guys are amazing. Now, back to the words of Michael Easter. My review of the discovery materials revealed an organizational deficiency, the absence of a structured case file, including a detailed chronological timeline segmented into relevant sections by Canton PD, MSP, or the Norfolk DA. This lack of a systematic record compromises the integrity and completeness of the investigation. Oh, there's a lot of other things, too, that compromise the integrity of this investigation, but let's just talk about the case folder for now. The MSP Policy and Procedure Manual, Criminal Investigations Policy, is limited in its description of its best practice. There is a reference under criminal investigations that is consistent with sections of this best practice. And here it is. Investigations. Identify, if possible, or obtain the best available description of the criminal suspects, description of any vehicles being used by suspects, information concerning any physical evidence discovered, name, address of complainant, victim, and or witness, identity of other law enforcement officers or civilians present, results of any interviews conducted and statements taken from complainant, victim, and or witnesses, and any other information which may be useful in the apprehension of the perpetrators and subsequent prosecution. The member conducting the investigation shall complete a written report of the incident. Report and field notes. This is, again, the MSP manual says this. All investigative activities, including actions taken, as well as information obtained as a result of said actions, shall be documented in an investigative report. Investigating members are strongly encouraged to create field notes during the course of an investigation. Strongly encouraged. All relevant facts and information in an investigator's field notes shall be included in the investigative report. All field notes shall be preserved by the individual member and shall be made available upon request of a supervisor. Back to the words of Michael Easter. Timely and accurate documentation of all investigative activities is paramount in a critical incident investigation. Timely and accurate. Prompt reporting completed as soon as practical after each investigative activity and meticulous attention to detail, ensuring reports are free of inaccuracies and inconsistencies, are fundamental to a thorough and precise investigation. A. Untimely reporting. A significant issue identified in the discovery materials is the prevalence of untimely reporting. Many reports were completed substantially after the events they purport to document, comprising the accuracy and reliability of the information. My review found 60 documents with report creation delays of 7 or more days, a further 22 of those documents showing a critical delay of over 100 days. The chart below identifies the investigator who authored the report, the supervisor who approved the report, and the file name. Melissa F. says the jury deserve to know this. Juice Man says, I think Brian Albert told everyone to get the hell off my property as soon as possible. Oh, yeah. Maybe we could call him Nebbercracker, the get off my lawn guy. Here we go. We'll put Nebbercracker up in the corner. Get the hell off my lawn. There he is. Oh, yeah, you heard right. 100 days or more. We just saw one that was 686 days. No big whoop. But here's a very small fonted chart. I'll try and enlarge it a little bit. Identifying every report that he's talking about. Authored by Yuri Buchanan, the first two, Michael Proctor, the second two, Joe Paul, who apparently, we don't know who his supervisor is, undetermined. Christopher Moore did a report, undetermined. Garino. Paul Gallagher, Michael Lank, Ashley Valier, Brian Tully. Look, his supervisor is ADA Lally, according to this chart. All of Proctor's reports. And look at how I've highlighted in yellow for you all the Brian Tully references. And there's a lot of them. The approving supervisor on most of these reports, with the exception of 1, 2, 3, 4 that are undetermined. One has Adam Lally as the supervisor of Tully, and one just says magistrate for Proctor, but all the rest of them were supervised by Tully. And you can look at all of these reports here, how long it took for them to render the reports. For example, the interview of Ricky D'Antuono, who was driving the car in which Ryan Nagel and Heather Maxson were passengers. They didn't even interview him, or the date of the report is September 2nd of 2023. Allie McCabe, 6-page interview. Date of that report is August 25th, 2023. Brian Albert, 2-page report. Oh, interesting. Is not even dated until August 23rd of 2023. Colin Albert. The report of his interview isn't dated until August 9th of 2023. Here's an MSP Crime Lab submission form. Doesn't say what they were submitting to the crime lab. The date of activity, of course, January 29th, 2022. And the date of the report is May 17th of 2023. Oh, I do too, Cherie. Cherie says, I wish you'd hyperlinked each report. Wouldn't that be so great? People have a lot to learn from Olivia Nile. I don't know if she's here today. What's a colon? Does it say colon? Oh my gosh. No, it says Colin. Doesn't say, it says Colin, C-O-L-I-N, the way he spelled it. I mean, the crime lab evidence submission form isn't even dated until 473 days after the murder of John O'Keefe. Photographs 400 days later. You can see it's a mess. It's a mess. You don't think the jury deserves to know about this? Memories fade, right? You're writing reports 581 days after the event. Well, those are witness statements that they didn't even bother to take right away. But for example, these lab submission forms, 400 days. Photographs took 400 days to write a report on them. Trace reports, 390 days. Search warrants regarding O'Keefe's ring camera. January of 2023, a year later. Time is an illusion. Time drifts. Time drifts. Analysis of the ring camera at One Meadows. Look how long it even took them to write up a report from the CF McCarthy's video. They took the video, they seized the video from CF McCarthy's February 1st of 2022 because they got on that right away. But they didn't write the reports until 114 days later. Right before they upgraded Karen Reed's charges to murder, coincidentally. But they did interview Chris and Kerry Curran right away. When I say right away, I mean 4 months later, but it's still a lot sooner than they ever even interviewed Colin Albert. Or the guy who drove the car that Ryan Nagel was in to pick up his sister, Juliana. So there you go. B, inaccuracies. A review of the discovery materials uncovered several reports with inaccuracies. Oh, shocking. The chart below identifies the reports, the investigator who authored the report, the supervisor who approved the report, and the file name. Oh, I mean, we know that nobody in the court system in the Commonwealth proofreads anything. None of the lawyers' offices proofread anything. When I say none, I mean just most, because some of them are very good about it. Look at these reports authored by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 8 reports listed. 6 of them were authored by Yuri Buchanan, 1 by Michael Proctor, 1 by Joe Paul. All of them were supervised and approved by Supervisor Brian Tully, except for Joe Paul, because we don't know who his supervisor is. Nobody's the boss of him. And attached and next to that, in the third column, is the name of the document. So Ricky D'Antuano's interview, Allie McCabe's interview, Trooper Paul's CARS report, interview of firefighter Daniel Whitley, Francis Walsh, Anthony Flamati, and the MSP report of Karen Reed. Here's where they went wrong. Number 1, the document 3, MSP report, interview of Ricky D'Antuano, 2 pages. Sergeant Buchanan has September 1, 2023 as the date of the report, but the investigative activity reportedly occurred on September 9th of 2023. Okay. So he dated the report before he even interviewed him. Well done to you, sir. Document number 15, MSP report, Allie McCabe, 6-page interview. Sergeant Buchanan reported in the first paragraph that he interviewed Allie McCabe with Trooper Clark about what she recalled from the night of January 28th of 2023. The death of O'Keefe was in 2022, not 2023. I mean, come on, man. Document number 52, MSP report, search for evidence on Fairview Road. Detective Lieutenant Tully has the year of 2021 on his letter to ADA Lynn B. Land, when the report should have been in 2022. Wow. Just wow. Document 2, Trooper Paul's CARS report. The date of Trooper Paul's report was May 22nd, 2023, more than a year after his testing of Reed's Lexus. Trooper Paul noted in his report that the Lexus brake test was done on February 1 of 2022, and the telematics was downloaded on February 2nd of 2023, which is a full year after the brake test. The report by Trooper Paul, memorialized in 112 copy of MSP CARS Bosch CDR download, 7 pages, read, K, indicates a crash retrieval date of February 1 of 2022. I know somebody's going to fall into the rabbit hole on this and put it together, all the pieces. What Trooper Paul testified to, whether he was allowed to be crossed on it. Because the problem is, because Michael Easter could not testify about all of these inaccuracies and or intentional misrepresentations on these reports, most of these reports, if not all of them, were never allowed into evidence. They were not, the reports themselves were not allowed into evidence. And so, as I recall, the witnesses were not allowed to be cross-examined on the contents of their reports because the reports were not coming in. The testimony was the evidence, not the reports. However, as a cumulative effect on the investigation, all of these consistent misstatements, inaccuracies, outright misrepresentations go to the investigation as a whole, which is why, in my opinion, Michael Easter is going to be a very important witness during all the civil cases that are pending as a witness for Karen Reed. Because he's already done the work. And he's already been paid for the work. He'll be paid again if they want to supplement his report or come in and testify. But, and you'll see when we get to the bill, he is a very reasonably priced expert. Documents, interviews of firefighters Whitley, Walsh, and Flamati. Sergeant Buchanan has February 2nd, 2022 as the date of the report, but the interviews occurred the day after, on February 8th of 2022. You can't make it up. You can't make it up. Sloppy. And Tully signed off on all this, all of it. Next document, 7 MSP arrest report of Karen Reed. The date of Trooper Proctor's report was February 6, 2022, but the date of investigative activity and arrest was on June 9th of 2022. Well, that was the second arrest. So without looking at what he's talking about, he may be referring to the second arrest of Karen Reed, but Proctor dated his report February 6th of 2022. Or it could just be confusing because her first arrest chat was around February 1st. And then she was held overnight, right? And she was arraigned on, I think, the 2nd. So why would he date a report February 6th for something that, I mean, it's possible, but I don't really know. I'm not going to try and defend Proctor at all. Section number 4, identifying individuals, witnesses, witness v. suspect. In the initial stages of a critical incident investigation, identifying all potential witnesses and suspects is crucial. Establishing a list of individuals who interacted with the victim in the hours preceding their death is the best practice. A person of interest list enables the lead investigator to prioritize investigative actions, aiming to either eliminate individuals as suspects or continue their investigation. Prematurely excluding potential suspects can lead to the loss of critical evidence, hindering the ability to establish guilt or innocence. A. My review of the discovery materials revealed a significant deficiency: the absence of formal person of interest, witness, or suspect lists compiled by Canton PD, MSP, or NDA. Notably, the Canton PD's January 30th, 2022 incident report designated Karen Reed as a, quote, person involved, suspect, and 10 other individuals at 34 Fairview Road as witnesses. This premature categorization prompted me to create a person of interest list to accurately assess who might have had contact with O'Keefe during the critical time frame leading up to his death. It prompted him to. Here it goes. Here's his person of interest list. 11 witnesses, potential suspects at 34 Fairview on January 29th, 2022. Says Canton PD incident report list, 10 civilian names at 34 Fairview Road. Document 16 Canton PD incident report, number 22870F. Okay, here you go. Name, Jennifer McCabe. Date of interview, January 29th and February 1st, 2022. Data report for the first one. That report for Jennifer McCabe's interview was not even dated until April 6th of 2022. And yet, they arrested Karen Reed in February based on what? There wasn't even a report drafted yet. The February 1 interview, no date on the report. That was the Prince and Keefe interview. Cell phone records? No. Carrie Roberts was interviewed February 1st, 2022. The report is undated. She was interviewed by Prince and Keefe. Cell phone records? No. Brian Higgins, interviewed February 3rd, 2022. The report was drafted February 11th, 2022. Interviewed by Proctor and Buchanan. Cell phone records? No. Brian Albert, nobody knows when he was interviewed. It says undetermined. Date of report, April 7th, 2022. By Proctor only. Cell phone records? No. Brian Albert Jr., he wasn't even interviewed until July 6th of 2023. His date of report, August 25th, 2023. He was interviewed by Moore and Proctor. Cell phone records? No. Nicole Albert, she was interviewed February 3rd, 2022. Her report's not dated till February 23rd, 2022. Proctor and Buchanan interviewed her. No. Cell phone records? No. Matthew McCabe, interviewed 1/29/22. The date of that report was not until April 7th, 2022. Interviewed by Proctor and Buchanan. Cell phone records? No. Tell him the guy never went in the house. Tell him the guy never went in the house. Caitlin Albert was not interviewed until July 6, 2023. Her report was dated 8/23/23. Moore and Proctor interviewed Caitlin. Cell phone records? No. Tristan Morris, there's no report of him ever being interviewed and no cell phone records. He didn't remember anything. He tried to get a deal for Brick Watch as a sponsorship from Dave Portnoy, but I don't know if it worked or not. Julie Nagel was interviewed in October 5th, 2022. Date of that report, 10/12/22 by Moore and Proctor. Cell phone records? No. Karen Reed was interviewed January 29th, 2022. Remember, at her parents' house in Dighton by Proctor and Buchanan. That report's not even dated until April 13th of 2022. Cell phone records? Yes. Yes. Her cell phone records, they got. Many others, the defense tried to get through Rule 17 motions ad nauseum. B, the investigator's decision to label 10 individuals present at 34 Fairview Road as witnesses by January 30th of 2022 strikes me as premature and detrimental. This early classification effectively hindered the preservation of key evidence that could have been used to validate actions, statements, and other events learned through the investigation. C, Jennifer McCabe. Trooper Proctor documented in an affidavit and other reports that McCabe made statements that she was at 34 Fairview Road during cell phone communications with O'Keefe and Reed in the moments before investigators determined O'Keefe's time of death. Investigators should have made it a priority to submit a preservation request or requested via legal process McCabe's historical cell phone records. By obtaining McCabe's historical cell phone records, investigators could have determined the accurate time of her communications with O'Keefe and Reed. Relying solely on a forensic extraction of her mobile device is insufficient because these extractions regularly have contradictions in dates and times as it relates to communications and activity preserved locally on the device. Oh, just another thing that they didn't do properly. By obtaining McCabe's historical cell phone records, investigators could have examined her cell site location information before, during, and after the estimated time of death of O'Keefe. The cell site information could have been used to establish the general location of McCabe when these communications took place and possibly aid in the identification of what cell sites McCabe's cell phone used for the internet searches below. How long to die in cold? And how long TIDIENCIKD? They didn't do it. They didn't do it. Of course they didn't do it. Because it would have been accurate. And then they talk about Brian Higgins. Is this Karen Reed's appellate brief? No, this is the report of expert Michael Easter, the FBI expert who was precluded from testifying at Karen Reed's second trial by Judge Cannone. That has just been released pursuant to a FOIA request. James Lynch says, Kevin Albert knows everything. Thanks, Stella, for reminding me to let everyone know that tonight, Dateline NBC has the Tara Baker story on tonight, which many of you watched with me, the trial of Edric Faust, who has now been convicted of the cold case murder of Tara Baker from something like 1995. And let's see how they skew it. Wait, is it Dateline or is it 48 hours? I thought it was 48 hours. Hold on. Let me just make sure I get the right. Because I might have set the DVR for the wrong thing then. Hold on. It's going to be on Dateline. It's going to be on Dateline tonight. Okay. Thank you. I think I taped the wrong thing. I think 48 hours is on tonight too. All right. So it's going to be on Dateline. Thank you very much, Stella, for your 20 and for telling me. About that. And it's called Who Killed Tara Baker? Something such as like that. Hashtag no house, no Faust. Thank you, Stella, for your 20. Andrea says, hi, just got back from a cruise. Recovery is good. Congratulations, Andrea Collins. Thanks for being here for 20 months. And Cilantro. And I'm glad you had a nice time on your cruise and that you're doing well. And you've been here for 20 months. You're awesome. Pivoting now to the next section of the report, which is focusing on Brian Higgins. ATF Special Agent Brian Higgins. Although investigators later learned that Agent Higgins, present at 34 Fairview Road, had an independent relationship with Reed, investigators inexplicably failed to perform any standard investigative procedures relating to him. A crucial omission was the failure to obtain his historical cell phone records, which would have provided critical insights into his communications and cell site location information. Where's my highlighter? Where did you go? The fact that Agent Higgins retained legal counsel and was interviewed with his attorney present on February 3rd of 2022, approximately 5 days after O'Keefe's death, during what was presented as a witness interview, would have immediately triggered significant suspicion in my investigative process. Yeah. And all of you armchair detectives too, right? Yes, thank you, Nurse Not Lawyer. And I did tape that one. That was Teresa Fusco, the Hot Skates employee cold case that was recently solved 48 hours. But what had happened was that's when the White House Correspondents' Dinner thing broke. And so what I taped, I didn't get to watch it. I'm going to have to try and find out where it is. Thank you. Thank you very much. It preempted the programming, and so I didn't get to see it. My review of the case materials reveal that Agent Higgins' interview, conducted by Troopers Proctor and Buchanan, documented in a report titled 5-3 MSP Report Interview of BH. Just says interview of BH, 5 pages, created by Trooper Buchanan on February 11th, 2022. Notably, among the over 150 documents reviewed, Agent Higgins was the sole adult whose name was abbreviated in the file name. This practice, in my experience, suggests a deliberate attempt to obscure Agent Higgins' identity within the MSP database, potentially hindering his discoverability in database searches. Oh, really? Oh. A deliberate attempt to obscure Agent Higgins' identity within the MSP database. Huh. What kind of an impact do you think that Michael Easter is going to have on any civil case? The discovery that Agent Higgins, in concert with an FBI special agent, privately downloaded his text message exchanges with Reed, followed by the destruction and disposal of his personal cell phone on a military installation, constitutes highly irregular conduct. These actions demand thorough investigation as they raise significant questions about the integrity of Agent Higgins' statements. Remember, he wasn't called to testify in trial number 2. It's only trial number 1, and they tried to make it think like, no big deal, no big whoop. Everyone does that. It's where he goes to dump his garbage. What's the big deal? He cracked his SIM card and he put it in 2 different dumpsters on a military base that he just happens to bring his garbage to. That's no big whoop. And him and Brian Albert destroyed their phones on the same day. Pshaw. Agent Higgins' actions are highly suspicious and, in my professional experience, would have immediately raised concern, grave concern. Upon receiving this information, I would have taken immediate steps to obtain his personal cell phone records. Oh, Mr. Easter, if only you were involved in the investigation of the murder of John O'Keefe, we might actually know what happened. Specifically, I would have requested a comprehensive record of call detail records, cell site location information, and network signaling data. This data would be analyzed to determine 1, if and when the physical device stopped registering with the cellular network, 2, the location of the cell phone's last cell site usage, and 3, whether the data corroborated or contradicted his statements. This analysis would be crucial for establishing the veracity of his account. That's right. Alienated. Sharpness says, but it's all Aiden's fault that people are suspicious of them, right? Right. And will this come into the defamation lawsuit as well? Does this give them even more reason to believe that one of the plaintiffs in the defamation lawsuit, at least one or more of them working together, could have been responsible for the murder of John O'Keefe? I ask you. Scott McGinnis says, to this day, I don't understand why the feds haven't at least fired ATF agent Brian Higgins and never mind arrested him. Joanne says, the Tara Baker episode tonight is titled A Window of Time. Okay, good. Then I did set the DVR for the correct episode. Thank you. Kentucky Granny can see it from Kentucky. They were absolutely counting on her taking a plea, and that way the lack of reports and investigation is not relevant in their pea brains. Yes, the shenanigans. Thank you for gifting 5 memberships. Congratulations to the 5 randomly selected chatters who have been gifted memberships by YouTube and Massa Shenanigans. Very generous of you. Cupcakes for Justice says, thanks for covering this report. My pleasure. Thank you for your super chat. Carol Lee says the Gilday appointment is very suspicious in my opinion. Love you, Mel. I don't think it's suspicious. I bet you that the Haas plaintiffs in that case are pissed about it. But I think it makes complete and total sense for one judge to be overseeing all of this mischigas because it's going to wind up being all the same witnesses, all the same depositions. It makes a lot of sense. He's already familiar with the case. So I'm not suspicious of it in to think that it's going to go against Karen or Aiden, but I think that the House defendants picked Barnstable for a reason, maybe. And now it's going back to Gilday, who's in Plymouth. Thank you for being here for 5 months. And Lucy says it would make more sense for the McCabe's and Alberts to sue the Massachusetts State Police. Yeah, right? Or how about the O'Keefes? The O'Keefes will never have resolution to what happened to their son and brother because it was such a poor investigation. Thanks, Lucy, for being here for so long. Knowing that ATF agents, like most law enforcement officers, are issued and utilize work cell phones in addition to personal devices, I would have prioritized obtaining Agent Higgins' historical work cell phone records. The rationale is clear. Work cell phones are less likely to be disposed of and are generally carried during official activities. Consequently, his work cell phone would likely have been active during the relevant period, including his trip to the military installation, and may contain crucial evidence. Right. He's saying what he would have done as an investigator investigating the murder of John O'Keefe. Clearly, none of this stuff could be obtained by Karen Reed's defense team, because every time they even tried to suggest making a motion to get one of these third-party potential culprit suspects' cell phone records, they were beaten down at every turn. Hearings were canceled the day before they were supposed to happen, the day that they were supposed to happen. The affiliation of the ATF with the Department of Justice is a critical fact that appears to have been overlooked by the Canton PD, MSP, and NDA. This affiliation means that Agent Higgins' ATF-issued cell phone would have contained location tracking data installed to track government cell phones, a crucial source of independent corroboration. Oh, is it too late to get all this stuff? Special Agent Easter? Is it still available? Does it self-destruct after a certain period of time? I have so many questions. These records should have been requested from the ATF and DOJ to validate or refute his statements, providing a comprehensive analysis alongside his work and personal cell phone records. Agent Higgins' statement, the next section, little Roman tiny 7. Agent Higgins' statement that he performed administration functions at Canton PD sometime after 12:20 a.m. on January 29th, 2022, following an evening of alcohol consumption, presents a significant investigative inconsistency. This claim deviates from standard agent behavior and warrants thorough scrutiny. I would have immediately questioned the nature and necessity of these tasks, demanding concrete documentation. Additionally, I would have secured Canton PD access records and Canton PD interior and exterior surveillance footage from January 29th, 2022, and at least 30 days prior to establish the veracity of his statements. Isn't it so crazy? Isn't it so crazy how all that Sallyport video and interior and exterior surveillance footage surfaced in the middle of trial 2? Isn't that so crazy? Did Brennan at least question some people in the department about, did you guys ever preserve this video? Do you have it somewhere? Where is it? And then remember the judge, just sua sponte in her decision when they asked to dismiss the case for failing to turn over evidence, said, Michael Proctor had it all in a drawer. It was just, he had it in a drawer. He didn't turn it over. No tampering, LOL. Right, that was what the Post-it note said that Helena Rafferty wrote. I forget what it was on. Was it on the Sallyport video? No tampering, LOL. These records and videos would have been analyzed to determine if his claimed activity aligns with his regular work patterns and to confirm his presence at Canton PD during the stated time. I had a hypothesis, and a concern and, I don't know, a suspicion that I didn't think that Brian Higgins ever went home that night. I thought he probably slept in his office. I don't know if he had a couch in his office or what, but if he was like hammered and tired, why would he go all the way back home to wherever the hell it was that he lived, so far away, instead of just sleeping at the office? 5, investigative timeline. A meticulously constructed investigation timeline is paramount for several critical reasons. Firstly, it provides a chronological framework that allows investigators to understand the sequence of events leading up to, during, and after the crime. This detailed record helps to establish crucial elements like motive, opportunity, and means, and can reveal discrepancies or inconsistencies in witness testimonies or suspect statements. By visually constructing a timeline, investigators can identify potential gaps in the narrative, pinpoint key moments that require further scrutiny, and ensure that no crucial detail is overlooked. This structured approach is essential for building a coherent and compelling case for prosecution. Well, I just thought of something. I mean, if Special Agent Michael Easter is telling us everything and that a timeline is so crucial in these types of investigations, do you really believe that it was Peggy O'Keefe who told Jen McCabe and Carrie Roberts to construct a timeline? Or do you think maybe someone else close to them in the family who was an investigator might have told them that they should do it, lock it down, get it airtight, memorize your timeline? Telling the guy never went in the house. Why would John O'Keefe's mom tell them to make a timeline? She doesn't do investigations. Why would she even think about that? I don't know. It's just something I just thought of just now. Maybe she did. Maybe she didn't. But if a good investigator is trained in these investigative techniques, it might be something that somebody else might have said, you got to do this. Get the story straight. There's a lot of family meetings, remember? In the early morning hours of January 29th of 2022. And even the night before, perhaps. I wonder. Sometimes my mind wanders. Secondly, a robust timeline serves as a vital tool for organizing and managing the vast amount of information gathered during a critical incident investigation. It integrates various pieces of evidence, including witness statements, forensic findings, surveillance footage, and digital records into a cohesive narrative. Oh, they needed a cohesive narrative. This organization not only facilitates efficient analysis, but also allows for effective communication between different members of the investigative team, prosecutors, and expert witnesses. Furthermore, in court, a well-documented timeline can be presented as a clear and persuasive visual aid, helping jurors to understand the complexities of the case and to follow the logical progression of events. Ultimately, the accuracy and comprehensiveness of the investigation timeline can significantly impact the outcome of the case. A, my review of the discovered materials revealed a significant deficiency: the absence of a comprehensive investigative timeline by Canton PD, MSP, or Norfolk DA. In my professional opinion, the lack of such a timeline directly contributed to the investigative inaccuracies, inconsistencies, and omissions that ultimately compromised the case. It's his opinion that the case was compromised. They didn't even make a timeline. You know who did? Jen McCabe and Carrie Roberts. You know whose timeline we never saw? Jen McCabe and Carrie Roberts. Had a thorough timeline been constructed, these critical flaws would likely have been identified and rectified prior to trial. B, one of the most relevant examples of this deficiency is an affidavit created by Trooper Proctor on February 1 of 2022. Trooper Proctor and his investigative team had determined, after approximately 3 days and an incomplete investigation, that on January 29th of 2022, Reed caused O'Keefe's death by striking him with her vehicle. Reed was subsequently arrested on June 9th of 2022. Well, the first time in February. And so he may have had to change this report. I don't really know. This is the one that somebody got pursuant to FOIA. This is what we have. Her arrest was made before Trooper Proctor or any other investigator had interviewed 3 individuals who were at 34 Fairview Road at the time of O'Keefe's death. Those individuals were Brian Albert Jr., Julie Nagel, and Caitlin Albert. I think that if Michael Easter was asked to amend his report and it was pointed out to him that she actually was arrested, that Michael Proctor's text messages, showed that he actually had the case solved within 16 hours and had to, based on when they seized the car and all the other lack of evidence that they had, she was actually arrested on February 1st, right? Arraigned on February 2nd. I don't know why that date's sticking in my head. 3 days later. So it was 3 days later, not June, that his head would pop off and his opinion would be even stronger. Conclusion. My investigative review of the discovery materials provided by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and Massachusetts versus Karen Reed reveals a pattern of significant deviations from established best practices for critical incident investigations, as well as failures to adhere to the Massachusetts State Police Policy Guide. They violated their own policy. And the judge didn't want anybody to hear about it. Specifically, the investigation conducted by the Canton PD, Massachusetts State Police, and Norfolk DA's office demonstrated critical deficiencies in crime scene management, documentation, timely and accurate reporting, witness and suspect identification, and the construction of a comprehensive investigative timeline. Scott McGinn is pointing out that Judge Beverly Cannone did not want to go down that rabbit hole, Jennifer McCabe and Kerry Roberts' timeline fabrication. Is Boozy Beauty here? Boozy Beauty, hi, Boozy Beauty. She really is a beauty, that girl. If you don't follow Boozy Beauty if you engage on the cesspool of Twitter, she puts it all together. And I'm sure she's already read this and put a lot of stuff together, but we have more questions. We have more questions. Who told Jen McCabe and Kerry Roberts to create a timeline? Michael Easter talks a lot about the timeline in here, and it's something seemingly that only a good investigator would know. Do you think that it was really Peggy O'Keefe who told them to make a timeline, or was it somebody in the family maybe, or someone they were close to who works in law enforcement who said, you got to lock it down, you got to get a timeline, you got to write a timeline, you got to lock it down? I don't know. I just thought of that today. The lack of a secured crime scene. The absence of a detailed crime scene log or evidence chain of custody, the failure to separate witnesses, and the premature categorization of individuals as witnesses rather than potential suspects all contributed to the compromise of evidence and the integrity of witness accounts. See, he thinks they're full of shit too. Here's the bullshit button. You're welcome. The absence of a structured case file with a chronological record of events, coupled with a significant delays and inaccuracies in reporting, further undermine the reliability of the investigation. The investigators' failure to adequately investigate all individuals present at 34 Fairview Road, notably Jennifer McCabe and ATF Special Agent Brian Higgins, raises serious concerns. The premature designation of Karen Reed as the sole suspect, the neglect in obtaining crucial cell phone records. All right, he's telling us everything. I can't read fast just because my voice is tired. I got to read that again. The investigators' failure to adequately investigate all individuals present, notably Jennifer McCabe and ATF Special Agent Brian Higgins, raises serious concerns. He's telling us everything. And those are two people that he thinks should have been investigated far more thoroughly. Far more thoroughly. The premature designation of Karen Reed as the sole suspect, the neglect in obtaining crucial cell phone records, and the unexplained actions of Agent Higgins including the destruction of his personal cell phone, all point to a flawed and potentially biased investigative process. And guess what? He's not even touching on Proctor. He didn't even focus this report on Proctor at all. At all. This report doesn't shit all over Proctor. Proctor's the fall guy. Proctor's the one who got fired, who's disgraced, who lost just about everything, including his dignity. But he doesn't even point out what a crappy investigation Proctor did. That he doesn't blame it on Proctor. Interesting, right? Ultimately, the absence of a meticulously constructed investigative timeline exacerbated these deficiencies, hindering the investigators' ability to understand the sequence of events and identify critical gaps in their premature narrative. These cumulative failures call into question the thoroughness and objectivity of the investigation and suggest that critical evidence may have been overlooked or mishandled, potentially impacting the pursuit of justice in this case. The pursuit of justice. Java Time says Proctor was the patsy. Right. Or even any investigation. An alienated sharpness says Proctor never had any dignity to begin with. Oh, is Queen Corey Hopkins here too? Hi, Corey, if you're here. This guy says, Brett says, blech, vomit emoji. I hear Proctor and I'm out. Bye. Bye. Let's see what you guys have to say about this. Oh, I do know. I know that Brian Higgins resides in Barnstable. I know Barnstable is the Cape. I know that Brian Higgins lives there. That's the reason that they're allowed to have the venue in Barnstable. I do know all about that. Talked about it many times. Thanks, another normal mom. Oh, I know. That's how they got into the Cape, because Brian Higgins lives there. He also says that Aiden Carney destroyed his lawn or something. I don't even know. But the thing is, and wait, hang on, because now we can pull it up because we're free to talk. We're free to move about the cabin. If you like, I could read you Judge Cannone's decision on this. But the first thing I want to look at is the order assigning Judge Gilday. So hang on for 1 second. I think that the defamation plaintiffs, Jennifer McCabe, Brian Higgins, Brian Albert, Colin Albert, chose Barnstable for a reason. They're allowed to file there because of the residence of Higgins. But now that it has been specially assigned to Judge Gilday, who sits in Plymouth, I don't know, maybe they won't be so happy. Just a thought. Let me see if I can find the order. Okay, here's the order. Oh, please. This order was filed in Barnstable Superior Court, and this is the Jennifer McCabe plus versus Karen Reed and Aiden Carney order for special assignment. It's hereby ordered that the Honorable Mark Gilday, Associate Justice of the Superior Court, is specially assigned to hear the above captioned case for pretrial purposes. The clerk's office will notify all counsel of record in future filings. The party shall note prominently in the caption that the case is specially assigned to Judge Gilday. Judge Gilday sits in Plymouth. How do I know that? Because that is where the O'Keefe versus Karen Reed case sits. That is where the O'Keefes filed it. And he is the judge in Plymouth. And so now he's also going to be the judge. This was filed yesterday. This is signed by Chief Justice Michael Schuette. Maybe they wanted a particular judge in Barnstable, but they're not going to get it. They're not going to get it. And it makes a lot of sense to have one judge here at all because he's going to be familiar with the case, right? Judge Gilday is on the wrongful death case, O'Keefe versus Karen Reed, the waterfall, and CF McCarthy's. Oh, please. Let us take, if you would like, so that we can wrap this all in one episode instead of doing 20 hours like we did on the defamation lawsuit itself, and because we clicked every single hyperlink and watched every single video they wanted us to watch. Let's look at Judge Cannone's decision on the motion to exclude Michael Easter. Which was filed by Judge Cannone March 30th, 2025. There was no Daubert hearing like there was for Marie Russell. There was no Daubert hearing like there was for the Crash Daddies, Andrew Rentschler and Daniel Wolf. What else do they do Daubert hearings on? No, on the papers alone, she excluded Michael Easter. And now it's interesting, since the report has been filed and we read it, or it's been released, I should say, pursuant to a FOIA request. That's the only way that we got a hold of Michael Easter's report, because it was sealed or never attached as an exhibit, and nobody ever wanted us to see it, ever. Never, ever, ever did they ever want us to see it, to look back on her ruling and her reasoning about why she didn't let Michael Easter testify in trial number 2 might be interesting to you. This is the memorandum of decision and order on the Commonwealth's motion in limine to prohibit or to exclude defense expert Michael Easter's opinion of the investigation. Quote, defendants have the right to base their defense on the failure of police adequately to investigate in order to raise the issue of reasonable doubt as to the defendant's guilt in the minds of the jury. Citing Commonwealth v. Finney, citing Commonwealth v. Bowden. This is where the Bowden defense gets its name, Bowden. It's a case from 1980, a Massachusetts case. To support a so-called Bowden defense, a defendant may present evidence that certain tests were not conducted, that certain police procedures were not followed, or that certain information known to the police about another suspect was not investigated, in circumstances in which it was reasonable to expect that the police should have conducted such tests, followed such procedures, or investigated such information. Well, didn't his report just tell us everything? Thank you, Nicole. Please hit the like button. Thank you. Thank you for your 5, sweetheart. An expert may, when appropriate, be used to support a Bowden defense on matters beyond the common knowledge of the jurors. The role of expert testimony is to assist jurors in interpreting evidence that lies outside their common experience. Thus, the first foundational element that the proponent of expert testimony must establish is that the testimony will assist the trier of fact to understand the evidence or to determine a fact in issue. Now remember, because this was not a bench trial, it was a jury trial, the trier of fact or the finder of fact is the jury. In this case, will it help the jury? And then the judge cites Commonwealth v. Miranda from 2004. Otherwise qualified expert testimony is admissible if, in the judge's discretion, remember she's got lots of discretion, the subject of such testimony is not within the common knowledge or common experience of the trier of fact, meaning the jury, and the testimony will assist them in determining a fact in issue or in understanding the evidence. In support of her Bowden defense, the defendant here, Karen Reed, seeks to admit expert testimony from Michael Easter, a retired agent of the FBI, to opine on law enforcement's failure to adhere to standard investigative policies and protocols in this case. More specifically, Easter's expert report indicates that he will testify that the investigation in this case was not reliable due to the lack of secured crime scene, absence of a detailed crime scene log or evidence chain of custody, the failure to separate witnesses, and the premature categorization of individuals as witnesses, and potentially biased based on the failure to investigate other suspects and obtain their cell phone records. She's got the Easter report because she's referring to it here at pages 15, 16. The court cannot find, nor has defense counsel cited, one Massachusetts case where an expert was permitted to opine on the general competency of a police investigation. Footnote 1. This is in many ways a case of first impression. I don't think anybody's ever seen a case like this before. This case is one of one. It is a unicorn. And maybe because appellate courts is basically where law is made and precedent is set, maybe it never had to go up on appeal because it's so freaking obvious that juries do not understand how police procedure is supposed to work. Footnote 1 says, the defendant cites Commonwealth v. Wood, where the Supreme Judicial Court noted that defense counsel thorough cross-examination and the calling of its own expert extensively challenged the adequacy of the forensic investigation conducted by the police. The court acknowledges that some forensic matters are beyond the common knowledge of jurors and therefore appropriately explained by expert testimony. That is not what the defendant is seeking to present through Easter's testimony. Well, here's the thing. Because Michael Proctor lied about his close connections to the family who resided at 34 Fairview and their extended family, and they're like a second family. All of these things kind of tie together, right? Do you think that a jury would understand witnesses should be separated, that cell phone records should have been obtained, that Jennifer McCabe and Brian Higgins should have been side-eyed and considered suspects? That's exactly what I just said. Steve O said, Melanie, can a case be the first of its kind? Yeah, or it never went up on appeal because it's so obvious. Every claim does not have to be referred to case law, but they did cite cases. She's just saying those cases are different because, you know, it was clearly stuff that the jury would not understand. The lack of authority suggests that during all the jury trials where the defense has been inadequate police investigation based on Bowdoin, expert testimony has not been needed for the jury to be able to evaluate the reliability of the Commonwealth's case and whether any failures in investigatory steps are sufficient to create a reasonable doubt of the defendant's guilt. Easter's proposed testimony concerns basic aspects of a police investigation, which are within the common knowledge of a layperson. Again, if you were not a true crime fan, would you know all this stuff? Through a zealous cross-examination of police witnesses, the defendant can cast doubt on the reliability of the investigation by demonstrating how it differed from standard practices and procedure, and can raise the issue of potential bias by police action or inaction, as counsel did effectively during the first trial. Really? Because they were all going to admit what a shitty investigation they did. Remember Yuri Buchanan sat up there in trial number 2? Because Proctor wasn't called. Hank Brennan tried a very different case than Adam Lally, who called every single person who ever drove by 34 Fairview, it seems. Hank Brennan was very selective in the witnesses that he called on behalf of MSP and Canton PD, and there were very few and far between. None of them ever admitted that they did anything wrong. Why would they? Here, she cites a case from 2022. Bowdoin defense supported by testimony elicited from police investigator that he did not conduct criminal history check on third party, waited a week to interview him, and conducted interview for only 10 minutes. Except the police investigator admitted all that in the Stedman case. She goes on to say, the court finds that expert testimony is not needed for the jury to determine whether or not the investigation was compromised by any failure to follow procedures or pursue other suspects. And again, citing some cases that say it's within the judge's discretion to preclude testimony. It's not impermissible for the judge to preclude testimony. She's got wide latitude. She says the defendant is undoubtedly permitted to pursue a Bowdoin defense, and the court will give the jury a Bowdoin instruction if requested. However, jurors are perfectly qualified to evaluate the adequacy of the police investigation in this case without the assistance of expert testimony as proffered by the defendant. XOXO. Order. For the foregoing reasons, the Commonwealth's motion in limine to exclude defense expert Michael Easter's opinion of the investigation is allowed. Motion granted for the Commonwealth. Praise be, under his eye, and all that good stuff. XOXO. Justice Beverly J. Cannone, Justice of the Supreme Court, dated March 31st, 2025. Now that you've read the report, that we've read the report together, and now that we've read Judge Cannone's decision again, effing again, what do you think? Do you think she made the right decision? Or do you think that Michael Easter pointed out things in his very thorough report that the jury should have been able to hear about? You know my opinion. Tell me, ask it differently, Mr. Jackson. Thank you, Anne. Cupcakes for Justice. Thank you for gifting a membership. Johnny New York says Faust team failed to show DNA at same lab and time frame in the 80s. Thank you, Johnny. For your super chat. Nicole says, please hit the like button. I love you with all my heart. I love you back. I love you more. Music to My Soul says, however, if Peggy didn't request the timeline, then you'd think hearing them testify that she did would have led her to doubt the House defendants. Well, listen, she didn't testify in trial number 1. She testified in trial number. I'm not saying that Peggy O'Keefe is a liar. I'm not saying that, because I honestly don't remember whether she was asked in trial number 2 if she told them to make a timeline. Does anyone? Maybe Boozy Beauty will go back and look at her testimony, but I don't know that she was even asked if she told them to make a timeline. Tiny Jesus. In my opinion, Peggy O'Keefe is going to believe whatever they're selling. They got very close to her after the death of her son. She's lost 2 children. No one should ever have to go through that, ever, 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 ever. I don't know what she thinks. I don't know what she believes. I don't think she was ever asked if she told them to draft the timeline. Linda Lane says, Michael Easter should have been able to testify. Not everybody knows the police procedures and all the good stuff that comes along with the regular layperson. Doesn't know that. Our child said, nope, she wasn't asked. Teresa says, in my opinion, Peggy held her own trial and found Karen Reed guilty well before John O'Keefe passed. Anything or anyone that helped further her finding as far as Karen Reed, not good for her son John, was deemed admissible in her mind. Maybe. Sue L. says, I don't understand why their investigation procedures didn't include videotaping the interviews. The Goodmans are here, and they say for sure the jury should have heard about this. Just Me Gaming says, this report will make it to court in the civil case. It absolutely will. Absolutely will. It's going to be very helpful. Oh, and then I forgot to tell you, but there's another section of this report that we didn't go over, and it has to do with cell site and location information for Karen's phone. Maybe we can do that another time. I don't know if anybody's already done that, but there's another 12 pages all about Karen's the towers that her phone connected to, because as you recall, her data had been wiped, her GPS data. But the final bill for Michael Easter It's right here. And for those of you who have worked with law firms before, and you know how much experts cost, you might be surprised to learn that the bill for Mike Easter was only a total of $7,500. It's not a lot of money for an expert. Are you kidding me? This is gold. This expert is gold in the civil cases. He only bills $250 an hour for the cell phone analysis and report that we didn't even look at yet. That was $1,250. He only charges $150 an hour to review all to discover all the material, and $250 to write his report. A total of $7,500. I mean, this is amazing. Amazing. There are surgeons who will not even come in and testify in a personal injury case for less than 20 grand because they have to cancel a full day's worth of surgery or more. $7,500. I mean, best $7,500 ever spent. Right, compared to $400 plus, Alana says, for blue paint Welcher, for Judd the Dud Welcher. Mm-hmm. Boozy Beauty says, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't think you're talking about what I was talking about. Something was uncovered in the sidebar transcript. They were discussing the media going to 34 Fairview because the Okies were there. I don't remember. I thought you were talking about something else. So there's that. So that's a good price, right? It's a deal. Yeah. I you know what, I take spoonfuls of Manuka honey. Those fisherman friends cough drops, I find them disgusting. I think they're gross. All right, thoughts, questions, comments, concerns, because it's hockey and the puck drop is at 7:30 and I got to eat dinner. So thank you, Nicole. Thank you to all of you who have chosen to spend almost 3 hours of your evening with me on a Friday night. I love you guys so much. Let's go Bruins. Thoughts, questions, comments, concerns before we wrap, which is going to be right about very soon. Thank you to moderators for doing this tonight because I wouldn't be able to survive without you or have this channel without you. And thanks to all of you in the chat, the Snark Tank, for keeping it classy. And thank you, Sherilyn, so much for your Cash App. She says, no motion or hearing without you. I love you with all my heart. Thank you to Sherilyn. I love you even more. Okay. Thank you for all your suggestions, for all your emails. I can't respond to them all, but I do read them all. And for all of you out there, stay cool, stay kind, stay classy. Let's go Bruins. Probably see you tomorrow. You gotta have your notifications set, even though YouTube isn't sending them out anymore because they want you to watch shorts and, AI videos. Keep the faith. Comment after the stream. That helps the algo. Hit the like button. Hype it if you can. I don't know. You got to wait for the chat to populate, I think, but later. Let's go Bruins. I love you guys. Stay cool, stay kind, stay classy. And peace out, my friends. Don't believe everything you read on the internet. Peace out. XOXO. Gossip Girl.